Give her a kiss? Oh, oh, yes. He's a Romeo. Have one more kiss. Give her one more kiss. Oh, yes. Oh, nice. Oh. Bow.
Bow! Bow!
Doesn't Lindsay like this Game Boy? They're on sale too.
See, she got Game Boy.
Nintendo?
Bow!
All their games are on sale.
Put a date on this.
You might want to catch the fire in the background.
Yeah.
As our house burns down.
As Brian goes zip. The insurance company want to know how all this happened.
Taylor, how old are you? 2?
Oh.
No.
Hi guys. Give me a high sign. Give me a wave. How old are you, Taylor? 2.
How old are you, Jennifer? Say 1. Say this big. 1.
Oh yeah. They both between them probably talk 200 words.
Right. At least. Ball, huh? Give it to Taylor. Give the ball to Taylor. Give the ball to Taylor.
Oh.
Can you give Taylor your football?
Taylor,
Taylor the football.
show Jennifer your fire truck. Show her your fire truck.
Did Santa Claus bring you that fire truck? Is that from Santa?
That's from Daddy.
Dada?
Christmas. It's Merry Christmas for Taylor. Here, let's get all these others out of here. Yeah, this is Christmas time. Yeah.
Rip it open. Rip it open.
Who's it from, Linz?
It's from Uncle Theron and Brenda.
Uncle Theron and Brenda. It's from Uncle Theron and Brenda. Oh, telephone. Telephone. Guess I could have gotten that. You look at me.
Hello? You don't have to say hi, that's quite alright.
What is it, Taylor?
That's stupid.
Oh, it's a video.
He is in the bathroom.
What's it? What is it? Oh, it's a video. Blood. What is it? Blooded Woman?
Hooded Robin is from Nintendo.
Oh. It's a video, isn't it?
Yeah. Taylor, in this
Open that one now. That's from Daddy. That's from Daddy to you.
Jennifer, come on over here.
Now, so we can get your pretty face on the camera.
Okay.
There we go. Hi. Yeah, little people. Here's your Aunt Kim.
Alabama's a 3-point favorite. Come with the 3, yeah.
There's Jennifer. Jennifer's being a real lady about this.
Yeah.
Surprised she's not going, hey, where's my brother?
Yeah. Oh, what is it, Taylor?
She's being so nice to me.
He's probably got 1,000 of these at home. Presents.
You would think not. Home field's got to be a little better than that.
Ooh,
That's what Brian staring after when they opened it.
animals. What is it, Taylor? Is that a puzzle? We'll get an audience reaction here from Jennifer.
Oh, Dad, what?
Open.
Those are okay.
Yeah. He'll like this. Is one. This is from your daddy.
I like the paper.
I thought you would.
Uh,
It's from your daddy.
9.5 and 3.
I see batteries. Do we have batteries?
You got it.
Yeah, it's loaded. Should work. We tested it before we brought it over.
I hear it.
This thing is amazing.
Set. Oh, really?
Oh,
You want to go on?
Ready?
Not Jennifer. Jennifer, that's Taylor's. That's Taylor's toy.
he's gonna take that off too.
That's Taylor's
Rip
toy.
everything else
Oh,
off.
that's pretty. Airplane.
Rip it off.
Yeah, see this work, Brian. Unbelievable.
The what?
You have to see this work. Suddenly the mood turned ugly.
Well, they're both an only child and they're not used to sharing.
We'll go open it in a minute, okay? Well, why don't we look at this one? Yeah.
What do you think, Jennifer?
This is from Uncle Brian and Aunt Kim.
What do you think, Jennifer? Here.
Both of them there. Brian in the glare.
Why don't you rip it open right there?
Get Jennifer checking things out, checking the fire truck out.
Open. Want open? There.
Jennifer has some of these, so she's probably thinking, they gave them mine.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jennifer? Pretty, huh?
Oh, Taylor.
They're very good scissors.
Open?
No.
Did you see that?
They're going to be best friends, aren't they?
Yeah. Have to hide all the knives.
Taylor. Taylor.
He might have some of these.
Open.
Can you help him, please?
When Jennifer got her set, Uncle David and Uncle Rick and Uncle Jerry wouldn't let her play with them, and they had a big contest. You could build the neatest thing, and we all had to judge it. Remember that, Brian? They had to use every piece, and when you were
Oh, that's neat.
You have some too, Jennifer.
yeah, this is like a little farm or zoo set. Hers is, I don't know what hers is. That's a little more advanced. It starts at 2. Hers is like 1 to 3.
Hmm.
Jennifer?
Wow.
Oh, give it to Taylor.
Give it to Taylor.
Give it to Taylor. Nice in front of the camera. Good.
Wow.
Give it to Taylor.
Give it to Taylor.
What's he, what's that? Oh, that's from Lindsay. Hey, Monkey.
Oh.
He's getting in your present. She didn't get a chance to wrap it.
What did
14, should be 15.
I bet she loves monkey.
Huh? Did Lynn have anything to say to you about it?
Not much.
I got.
The door opens back up, closes back up.
Bobby even liked this toy.
Here it goes. Ready for takeoff? Passengers please be seated. It's going good, huh? It's gonna take off and it's gonna fly right through that window.
Listen to the engine there. It lifts its nose up. Here it comes, Taylor. Here it comes. It's coming to see you now. Taylor, look, here it comes. Here it comes. Jennifer's eyes are big. Taylor! Taylor! Here it comes!
Open, yeah. It's open.
Jennifer's looking. Taylor, it goes. There he goes. Give her a kiss. Can you give her a kiss? Oh, oh, yes. He's a Romeo. Have one more kiss. Give her one more kiss. Oh, yes. Oh, nice. Oh. You guys. Giving a kiss? A kiss and hug? Taylor, you want to give Jennifer a kiss? No. No? You want to give her love? Give her hugs? Huh? Yeah. Look at that. Little Romeo, give her a kiss. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. That's real nice. Oh, that's real nice.
Are you mad because you stopped, Jennifer?
Look at that. Little Romeo, give her a kiss. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. That's real nice. Oh, that's real nice.
Are you mad because you stopped, Jennifer?
Yeah. Little bear, teddy bear. Little teddy bear. Are you chasing Jennifer?
Oh, you are the rights around. Just go over.
Here he comes.
Get him.
Here he comes.
Touch him when he goes by.
Oh, come right up to the camera, yeah? Yeah?
You know, Brian plays tag with her, and he'll go, "You're it," and he'll go up and he'll do that to her on her shoulder, and I think that's what she's kind of doing.
Oh, yeah.
It's like giving him, "You're it." Kiss. You give him a kiss? Go give Taylor a kiss.
Here she comes. This time they're so much closer in age. You can play to, you know.
Well, every year they'll get closer and closer. Alright, mine's looking up.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, goof brain. How are you?
And when do you have to have him back?
6. How about that goofus? Oh, here she comes. Yes, there she is. Go get him.
Whoops.
Now go easy on the cupboards.
Crash. Now, why is it that he wants to play with Jennifer's toys and Jennifer wants to play with his toys?
That's right. Here he comes. Here he comes. You ready for some juice?
Yeah.
Easy valve to,
The automatic lean attaches either way.
oh, it does?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I would avoid then with the community property titling would be simply, I could save some taxes.
Here they go.
Well, she likes that.
Well,
You can't keep up with him.
no. Taylor. Hi, boy. Okay.
You can't get through here. Well, you maybe want him to go through here. There, let's turn around and go the other way. Turn around. Go that way. There you go.
Taylor. Hi, guys. That's just right. You know, another couple months and she won't be able to ride there, and he'll be a little too big.
Head's gonna see this. You gotta see this one.
Okay, Taylor.
Okay, let's go.
We have a wide enough open range.
Easy.
Excuse me, puppy. Okay, go down this way. Go down this way.
Go see Aunt Kim.
Jennifer. Jennifer, your mommy. Jennifer, your mommy.
She.
Jennifer.
Where's
Good girl.
your video camera?
Oh, yeah, I should my video camera phone. We're gonna go, guys. Okay.
Sorry, Bobby.
I'm getting you.
Hi, everybody. I gotta film this opportunity too.
Go. Go. That's it. You can go. Push him. Huh?
It's a buzzard. That's a baby buzzard like you. Whoa! That thunderstorm you were talking about. How does it drop them off?
It hits the little peg here.
Watch. Watch.
Oh, that guy got a headache.
It's really at random when he swoops, huh?
Pretty neat.
Good job.
Taylor, go look at him.
What do you think of that? Look pretty neat?
You and Jennifer want to play that?
No.
No? You don't want to play? You want to watch?
God, jumps.
They both
What do you
jump.
think of that? See his feet? He just picked that man up with his feet, didn't he? Oh, whoa, just picked that man up with his feet. Oh, she's gonna get him. Gonna get him. No more. No more. Okay, we'll stop. No more. Okay, we'll stop. No more.
What, Dada?
Watch? Okay. Are you going to do something?
So only we go around.
Can you make it go around? Can you push the button?
No.
Try.
No.
Push him.
Press the button. That'll make him go.
Push him.
No.
You don't want him to go?
No, I
Push
said
him.
no.
Push him hard one time.
No.
Can you make him go?
No.
I think you can.
Oh.
That bird got you. That bird got you.
No, it's Sam.
Can Jennifer make him go? Jennifer. Can you push that button?
Jennifer can make him go.
Push it. Push the button.
She's frightened too.
No.
Oh,
No.
he's trying to save him.
Make it down. Make it stop.
Stop.
Make it stop. Okay, stop, bird.
See how it's done? You just gotta say stop, bird.
No, stop. Stop.
Yeah, just say stop and he'll stop.
No.
Taylor, you can play a game of where's the man? If I put him under here, you gotta tell me if he's there or not. Is there a man under there? Well, sure there is. I just saw you put it in there. See? There's a man under there.
Come all down and then you put the man under one of them.
Now, is there a man under there? Taylor, is there a man under here? Is there a man under here?
You push the button now,
Look.
Taylor?
Taylor. Look. Look. There's a man there. I'm gonna cover him up. Is there a man under there?
He doesn't really care about your man.
He doesn't like men.
Hey,
even though
Taylor.
I'm very bad at it.
Push the button, make the bird fly.
Push the button.
Push the button.
Say go. Can you turn it on?
Push the button. Jennifer's going to push it.
Push it. Good girl. Push it. Yay.
There we go.
No more.
No more. Stop to
Okay,
stop.
stop. There you go. Boy, you jump back once and go down.
Here's your man.
Clock. Perfect. Got the three of them right there. All three kids. Then I get you.
Which one is
No, then
my
I.
child?
Then I get you once in a while, Gary.
We're having fun, huh? We're having fun.
I'm calling somebody. Hello, Barbara. This is Gary. How you doing? I wanted to drop over in about 20 minutes, if that's okay. Alrighty. Just bye.
I think Robin really likes where she works like some days.
Yeah. Just depends on what they'd start me out at. Right now, I'd take 7 an hour. I think that's what I'm worth that.
Yep.
There. There. Now wait, he's gonna get ready. See the door open?
Yeah.
He's getting ready.
Well, I'll get out.
Wait a minute. Let's see. Let's see. Jennifer, let me see. Jennifer.
Do it. Go. Look at her.
She's doing it there. She's doing it all the time.
Look at this, Bobby. Sicko.
Look, Brian. All right, come here. Come here. She won't stop. She won't stop, Brian. Brian. Brian.
Come here. Come here.
She's doing it again.
Come here. No, I know. Come here. Come here. Come on over here. Come here, so Daddy can give you a love. Come here. Come here. Bring me your bead. Give me your bead.
Introducing Alka-Seltzer Plus cold and cough medicine. 2 kinds of relief from only 1 medicine.
Thank you. Thank you. Come here. Come here. No, 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 no. Come here. Whoa. Look at Uncle Bobby.
Hi.
Say hi.
Can you blow me a kiss?
Blow me a kiss.
Blow me a kiss.
Blow me a kiss.
That's nice.
That's nice.
That's real nice.
Blow him a kiss. Blow Uncle Bobby a kiss.
Thank you. Oh, thank you again. And again. And again. Yeah. I didn't ask for it. There.
Watch Elo's feet now here as he goes up for this shot. He goes up.
Thank you.
And the best kick out of the basket too. That's a hesitation move.
Thank you.
Four-point lead. Portland looked like they were going to take it away. They pull away, but Cleveland with a three-point play come right back. Porter, the pull-up from 8 come right back. Porter, the pull-up from 18 doesn't get it.
Yeah.
Take the ball to the basket. Williams, baseline. The shot won't go, but we have a foul, and that will send the Cavaliers to the line. Leading by 4, 47.
Yeah.
Just like Brian.
Yeah. Isn't that something? Hey, Chris. Chris.
What?
Who's this remind you of?
What?
Look at their toes. Who's that remind you of?
Brian.
Yeah. I can't believe it.
We'll pull him out. If you go in the street or in the dirt, you'll get stuck. You know that?
Yeah.
Well, that's what happens. So stay on the driveway. Okay? Oh boy. Huh? Or Betty Crocker?
Here we're learning how to make almond toffee.
Betty Cracker, maybe?
Betty Cracker.
You're not going to get any of this.
What are you guys making?
That almond
Almond
toffee?
toffee.
She's teaching me how.
Oh, okay.
And it's going to be yummy.
It's got the window here.
It's not coming down.
I pick it up a little bit off the heat.
Boy.
It's supposed to keep boiling good, so.
Okay, I think it's gone.
I guess
Now I
you.
can see why you need to have these ready.
And
Because you don't have time. You don't have time to sit there.
But you're not supposed to stop.
Yeah, you don't have time to sit there.
You guys playing nice? Huh? You guys playing nice? Well, no, What you guys doing? Huh, Taylor? Taylor, you guys going cross country? Look at Daddy. Taylor. Taylor, Jennifer. Well, now it goes. You just left Jennifer. No, no, let her ride. Go, Taylor, go. Let her ride. That's nice. Take her for a ride.
No.
Why not?
Turn off.
Oh, that's not very nice.
Turn off.
That's not very nice.
Nice. We go. We go. Oh. Dad. Whoa. Dad. Ooh. Whoa.
7554, January 1992. $75.09. $75.10. $75.65. $75.40. $75.63. $75.55. $75.45. $75.20. $75.07. $75.66. $75.08. $75.19. $75.14. 75, 12. 75, 15. 75, 16. 75, 17. 75, 18. 75, 21. 75, 53. 75, 46. 75, 43. 75, 57. 75, 61. 75, 37. 75, 11. 75, 49. 75, 38. 75, 58. 75, 59. 75, 42. 75, 60. 75, 39. 75, 41. 75, 51. 75, 44. 75, 62.
Get a picture.
Oh, don't you look nice?
Are you really doing it?
Yeah, you're on. So it's there. Doesn't. Okay, you guys, let's get the both of you. What? Okay.
Throw me up the car.
Say hi to the folks. Oh, okay. Oh, now that's better.
Brenda.
You know,
It's me, that's the baby.
Theron's still not showing.
Yeah, he is.
Oh, his is due any day now.
Funny. Funny.
Okay. And what are you going to do about it? Not a thing.
Not while that's running.
As soon as I will, he will.
Brenda, show us your bruises where Theron's been rough with you. Yeah. Okay, any words to the guys back home? Nothing?
No.
All right, let me get the wide angle on. Boom, 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 boom.
You guys are terrible. Stop looking at me.
Okay, I need a few pictures of all of us. That's enough.
Park City. It's about 20 after 9. And this is our little room. We're not real tidy.
Dad, we gotta go right now. We're gonna miss the bus.
Okay. 20 after, then 20 up. So we got another 10-15 minutes to get ready.
We're not gonna go 20.
And there it is. Park City. Park West. With a new coat on. This is Park West. Looks pretty dry right there. There's no snow at all. Gosh, Lindsay. The snow is so sticky. We're barely moving. Finally moving now. Conditions are dirt cold. They need a lot more snow. Let's encounter. Oh, you can do this one. Just back and forth. Big bites. Oh, you're doing fine. Keep your weight on the downhill ski. Good. That's very good. Your turns are great. Oh, you're home free now.
Because if I had walked out of New York State on December 20th, I'm afraid that our budget would have been doomed. I don't believe they ever would have allowed the budget to be made. If that's true, New York State goes down the tubes, incidentally, for whatever interest it holds for the rest of the country. When New York State goes down the tubes, that would have an impact all the way to California. So my obligation required that I stay there. If I had had a budget, which I was desperately trying to get from the Republicans and the Democrats, would I have run? The answer is yes.
What if you get one Monday?
I don't have one, and I won't get one.
But
Monday.
what if?
If I had a little ham and I had a little cheese and I had 2 slices of rye bread and some lettuce, I'd have a ham and cheese on rye bread with lettuce.
And if the store sold it and we went across the street, you'd get it.
It's all very speculative. I come from the old school and the old neighborhood where reality was sufficiently consuming so that you didn't speculate about
but in the old neighborhood, because we come from the same neighborhood.
No, excuse me, hold it. No, that's not true. I come from Queens. You come from Brooklyn.
I was pulling rank. Okay. But one thing similar between Queens and Brooklyn, we used to say, what if Mays played in Yankee Stadium? What if DiMaggio played in Fenway Park? What if you got a budget next week?
If I got a budget next week, it would be a miracle. And if it were a miracle, I'd be properly grateful for it. What other implications it has, I can tell you. But I think the reality at the moment is that you have a field of Democratic candidates, that this field is adequate to produce the next president of the United States. I think any of the people in this field, Bill Clinton included, Harkin, Brown, Tsongas, Kerry, any one of them is certainly up to the job of being president of the United States. So is President Bush, in the opinion of many Americans. This is the field we have to choose from. The Democratic candidates and President Bush. I don't believe that Pat Buchanan or any of the other candidates are realistically possibilities. And this is the choice we need to make, and I think that's where we ought to focus.
But on the Clinton thing, one, the apology was satisfactory to you?
It's not important.
It is important.
No.
He wasn't talking. It was larger than you. We're talking about a slur.
That is the point. It is larger than me. It's not a slur against Mario Cuomo. He doesn't count. I mean, what difference does it make what Bill Clinton says about Mario Cuomo? Frankly, it's certainly not going to affect my life. It involves Italian Americans and much more than that. It involves all the people who have ever been slurred. All the Jews and all the Polish people and all the minority groups and all the women and all the welfare people, all those people who, when you're in trouble in this country, you tend to scapegoat. All that cheap living room talk when the other group isn't there, all that nigger talk, all those terrible, terrible insults that get worse in times like this when hands are reaching for the bread out of desperation. That's the syndrome that's at work here. It's an ugly syndrome.
So the anger should be greater.
Well, it's not so much anger as it is being disturbed. I will say this. Forget about Bill Clinton. I've known Bill Clinton for a long time. I worked with him very, very well for a long time. His conscience will be his judgment of his own action. But as between the kind of infidelity, etc., that's being talked about, and an antipathetic view of other people, an unkind view of other people, a negativism that divides, etc., I'm not sure that the misplaced affection, which is infidelity, and I don't mean to demean it, but the idea of loving imprudently or unwisely, I'm not sure that that's as bad as encouraging people to hate one another. And I think our own mayor, David Dinkins, has said it very well in New York City. All that living room talk, okay, you make laws against bias when it's done in public, but a really insidious form is when you're all alone. You know, when you talk about that other group, when you're all alone. That has to be stopped. And one great contribution we can make is when it happens in a living room or in a telephone call. You just express your unhappiness about it. You can do that without losing a friendship. You can do it. I think that's very, very important. So there is that significance to it.
And the recipient, though, has to have... I mean, we've talked long ago your anger at the term, if a person's name ends in a vowel, there's this mafia thing. If an Italian-American comes forward, there's this... And that's what we hear on the tape. We hear one woman saying to a man, mafioso, and he's sort of concurring. Now, I don't even know who the woman or the man was, but just hearing that tape, that was a conversation between two people about someone. And they're putting this thing on him. If I was that someone, I'd be ticked.
Yeah, well, not being given to anger like some of the guys from Brooklyn, Larry. I may have reacted a little more docilely, but I think the point, if you insist on staying with the subject, the basic point is this. And we talked about this at the United Nations this morning. We had a magnificent celebration, quincentenary celebration. Ambassador Duke was there. Matilda, who was the chairperson of the Quincentenary Commission, was there. We talked about diversity in this country. You're a Jew, I'm a Roman Catholic, and we're both proud of it, and you can be what you are. You can be black, you can be Egyptian, you can bring your culture here. Nobody asks you to give it up. As a matter of fact, we nurture it, we encourage it. We prefer to be a mosaic to a melting pot. Give us the diversity, we'll take it. There has never been an experience like this in the history of the world where for 200 years you have put that diversity together with relative peace except for one outbreak, the Civil War. This is a magnificent human experience. But that diversity is also a great vulnerability for you because there's this constant tension that comes out of difference, and there are some people who will use that to pit people against one another. When you deal with that diversity perversely, when you undermine it, when you make it a cause of disruption, you're getting at the very fabric of the democracy. So this is more than personal insult, personal hurt. You're really attacking the democracy in a fundamental way. When you say nigger, kike, mafioso, when you pit the groups against one another, you're dealing with the fundamental character of this place. It absolutely demands equilibrium.
And it is
so
a fair
that's why it's
character
important. It is
question in
not
the presidential candidate.
Well, look, I'll let the voters judge that. You're asking me why Mario Cuomo commented. This is why I commented. Hey, look, I've taken my shots. Believe me, what Bill Clinton said is light material compared to some of the stuff that you deal with in this lifetime. So that is not the whole of it. There's not personal indignation. I don't have that right. It is a serious concern with that kind of thinking, whether it is from a presidential candidate or the guy down the block. It's wrong. It's bad for this state. It's bad for this country.
We're going to go to the State of the Union, discuss that. We'll be taking your phone calls. One thing is semi in this area. If the primaries, one guy wins one, another one wins another, there's no clear lead. People come to you, Mr. Brown, the chairman who you refer to frequently in the December 20th situation, and ask you to come in, would you?
You're getting ready for the next piece of the show? Mm-hmm. Let me leave you with this. If we don't get a resolution to our economic plan before you get a candidate for the Democratic Party, this country is in trouble. Did you hear what I said? If we don't get a resolution to the economic plan before July, when you're going to get to the convention, this country is in very serious trouble. Let's talk about that.
The convention's going to be right here.
Absolutely.
You'll
in
not
New
be
York
a favorite
City.
son.
In the Big Apple, I will not be a favorite son. No.
We'll be right back with the governor of New York, Mario Cuomo, and we'll talk about issues and take your phone calls. Don't go away.
I don't particularly care for Cuomo's demeanor.
Well, he is so aggressive.
Well, he seems like he could get real mean. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't have some mafioso major connections.
Well, that's likely.
Yeah.
I just wanted him to know that if anything was said, I didn't mean any offense by it. And that's all it meant. I wanted to give a genuine statement to that effect.
Hello, I'm Jane McCauley, here at the source making headlines around the world. Somalia's warring factions may be invited to the United Nations. According to an emissary to the Secretary General, Boutros Ghali is considering extending an invitation to representatives from both sides of the conflict in hopes of improving prospects for ceasefire talks. Supporters of Mohammed Aidid and forces loyal to interim President Ali Mahdi have been fighting since mid-November. The civil war in Somalia has already claimed 20,000 lives. A fire at a nuclear plant in Bulgaria apparently was caused by faulty cables. The blaze broke out at the Kozloduy nuclear power station Wednesday, but firefighters arrived on the scene in time to prevent any radioactive leakage. The International Atomic Energy Commission had recommended closing down 4 of the plant's oldest reactors early last year. 2 were shut down, the other 2 were repaired and are still running. Stay tuned for more news updates from around the world. I'm Jane McCauley. You're watching CNN International.
Never has an issue been more demagogued by its opponents. But the demagogues are wrong. They are wrong, and they know it. 60% of the people who benefit from lower capital gains have incomes under $50,000. A cut in the capital gains tax increases jobs and helps just about everyone in our country. Is that a good speech?
Well, you'd have to judge it a number of different ways as, a collection of words, delivery. I guess he delivered it well, and I thought some of it was very well written. If you're talking about it as a plan to save this country from one of the worst economic problems it's had in 50 years, it was a disaster.
Why?
Because it didn't do it. You needed a bold new plan. He said that himself. Every economist, every businessman, every governor, every mayor, and most of the people who are paying attention know that this is an extraordinary problem that needs extraordinary remedies. The president has said over and over that he was going to bring to this difficulty now domestically the same kind of leadership he brought to the Iraq-Kuwait situation. Really? Well, then declare war on this economic problem. Say, look, there are millions of people out of work. There are millions of people anguished. There are millions of people in trouble. We need to make every effort, the same kind of effort that we made in the Second World War in Iraq, and I'm going to be your general. And don't talk to me about money. Would you talk to me about money when I send people over to fight? Would we stop to argue over the price of a missile or a tank? Of course not. Winston Churchill said it too. The Chancellor of the Exchequer is not going to control this war. Everything goes after the importance of winning the war. That's where we are now. You beat Iraq. It took you the Iraq, 100,000 Iraqis are killed in 2 months. Terrific. You spent $40 billion in that war. That was nothing compared to what you're in now. You're being beaten by the Japanese. You're about to get the European Economic Community, a bigger community than yours, stronger than you economically. They will wipe us out unless we do something, unless we improve our education, unless we get a health care plan, unless you keep your infrastructure. That calls for a war. That calls for leadership. And what he did was throw a few bonbons to a badly undernourished country. saying here that they're sweet and they're delightful and maybe they'll distract you. Meanwhile, I'll pray to the cyclical economic gods that in the third quarter, by magic, without doing anything, we'll take care of you. And so that was a disaster.
Candidates addressing all these things that you just addressed?
Oh, sure, I'm sure they all will. But, I'm sure. Well, I'm sure they're doing it. I haven't heard them today, but they're at least as able to do it as I am, and they're studying it every day, and I'm sure that they'll have answers.
When you go to war, okay.
I hate to do this, but the president said something there that's marvelously telling. He accused those of us who say that the capital gains tax cut is a rip-off for the rich people. He accused me and all the other Americans who feel that way of being a demagogue. Is that correct? Okay. And then the president said to millions and millions of people, they're all phonies, these people who are attacking the capital gains tax cut. You know why? 60% of the people who get the money are making $50,000 or less. Okay? You know what the real statistic is? That most of the money, 2/3 of the money, goes to 1% of the American people. He's talking about 60% are under $50,000, yeah. But when you count up the actual profits, 2/3 go to 1% of the American people. Now, who is demagogue?
You're saying those 60% get $30 and the rest again.
He gave a statistic that was absolutely, totally distorted and misleading. And let's say more. That is the story of his administration and the Reagan administration before him, and now everybody knows it, Republicans and Democrats. What you have worked in this country is a tremendous redistribution of wealth from the hardworking middle class up to the wealthiest, and that's all right. We all want to be in the wealthiest, but let's at least tell the truth about it.
Are you saying he was demagogue?
Absolutely.
Let me get a break. Come back with more of Governor Mario Cuomo. He's with us for the full hour. This is Larry King Live in New York. Don't go away. This is the surprise package of Europe. Belgium. Surprise. Belgium is carnivals and canals and castles. Castles, castles. Surprise. Belgium is Waterloo. Belgium is Rubens. Bruegel, Van Eyck. And surprise, you can see all of Belgium in day trips from Brussels without checking out of your hotel. Beautiful, bountiful, bouncing, beguiling Belgium. Surprise package of Europe. From Tenor Pictures to Charlotte Day, playing it safe was everything. A safe job.
Assistant superintendent. Oh, then I'll be pleased to put your name before the board.
A safe relationship.
Marry me. A proposal because Franny Payton is pregnant? No, I want a proposal because I want to be married.
And then something crazy happened.
Maybe you and I can go up. I don't know why, but I like you.
And for the first time, playing it safe wasn't good enough anymore.
I'm not in love with you. Good catch.
Christine Lottie, Ruban Blades, Crazy from the Heart. Now available from Turner Pictures.
It was too little too late. It will not produce the results the American people deserve, and I look forward to continuing this debate.
Many of the areas that he targeted I find to be admirable. And it may be, in fact, that on some of the proposals that he's got in the short term that I would support rather quickly. This is not an attempt to make this country competitive. This is an attempt to get George Bush reelected.
Mario Cuomo wants to go to war on this economic issue, but to go to war, you do need the money from somewhere, right? I mean, it can't just appear. What do you do? Where does it come from?
Where did it come from when you went to war in Iraq?
But I assume the missiles were built there.
Where did it come? No, you had to spend $40 billion. You weren't going to
the planes were there.
But where did the $40 billion come from? Before the savings and loan crisis, I recall, because as a governor, I went down to Washington to beg for money for education, to beg for money for health care, to beg for money for drug treatment, to beg for money for roads and bridges, and constantly we were told that there is no more money in the budget. We just don't have it. We're sorry. Your needs are absolutely conceded. You're right, Governor, and all the other governors are right. If we had money, we should certainly put it into roads and bridges. Economic development needs it. We should certainly save children from crack. That's essential. I, the President of the United States, have declared war on drugs, okay? We were told over and over there is no money. Savings and loan crisis hit, and all of a sudden there was $50 billion. Where did it come from? There was an earthquake, and all of a sudden there was $5 billion. Where did it come from? I'm asking you. It came from the same place that the $1.5 trillion comes from. You have $1.5 trillion to spend. He just gave you a budget that has a $352 billion deficit in it. It's a matter of priorities. You just shift around money and you can get what you want. They shifted it around and they got savings and loan. They shifted it around and they fought a war. They shifted around and they sent money to Turkey. They get it if they want it. So it's a matter of priorities.
They don't want to help their own.
Of course not. Of
Go on. They have chosen not to give the money to the cities, not to give the money to the states. Did you hear anything in George Bush's speech that said what should be obvious, that the first thing you should do is put people to work, that the best way to do that is to call upon all the governors of the United States of America, Republican and Democrat, and mayors in the major cities and say the following: look, we have people out of work begging for the chance to earn their own bread. It would be better if we put them to work. We also need to repair roads and bridges. You have on your shelf plans, Governor, ready to go instantly to put people to work doing roads and bridges, fixing up schools, cleaning up landfills, doing all this stuff that the country absolutely needs. It's not something that's controversial. It's not something that's ideological. So here's what we're going to do, pal. We're going to give you $20 billion. We're going to spread it around the states, spread it around the cities. You go right to work, put people right to work, get them off welfare, off unemployment, give them back dignity, let them take a paycheck home. Why did he do that? Are you really telling me you don't have $20 billion to do it, but you did have 40 for the war? I don't understand that, Mr. President. And how can you say it to a governor? Every governor in this country has to balance his or her budget. We do it every year. All right, my polls have gone from the most popular governor in New York State history way down to where all the other governors are. Why? Because I found the money I need for my decade of the child, for my prison system, for my roads and bridges. I had to raise some taxes. Oh, God forbid, you can't do that in Washington. I had to cut some other programs. I had to lay some people off. My workforce is reduced by 15%. Did you hear what the federal workforce is? Up. With raises. So here, right, come back. We'll come right back with Governor Mario Cuomo. We'll start including your phone calls on Larry King Live. We're in New York. Don't go away.
The reductions I have approved will save us an additional $50 billion over the next 5 years. By 1997, we'll have cut defense by 30% since I took office. These cuts are deep, and you must know my resolve. This deep and no deeper.
Hello, I'm Jane McCauley. Here are some stories making headlines around the world. Britain's Customs Service has successfully stopped Iraq from making an effective supergun. On Wednesday, customs officers intercepted parts of the secret supergun project. Officials learned in March of 1990 that British companies were to ship the parts. Other countries, including Greece, Turkey, and Germany, also intercepted parts. However, customs officials still say enough components were smuggled into Iraq to make a similar, smaller working model of the supergun. South African prosecutors have dropped obstruction of justice charges against Winnie Mandela. The charges stem from a sit-down protest led by Miss Mandela. She and 300 supporters brought central Johannesburg to a standstill last May by blocking streets and demanding the release of political prisoners. Miss Mandela and 15 other protesters paid a $20 admission of guilt fine. Stay tuned for more news updates from around the world. I'm Jane McCauley. You're watching CNN International.
Every weekend, CNN International gives you a wide range of programs, from travel to movies and tips that are worth your money. Plus, regular updates on headline news. Get a world of information weekends on CNN International. Unequivocally, you're saying you were not sleeping with both men or having a relationship with both men at the same time.
Absolutely not. And there isn't, I have documents that the FBI, they were watching me 24 hours a day. And there isn't a document that exists that says that I had a relationship with Sandra.
This is CNN International.
It's clear that George Bush's candidate is going to run against the record of the Bush administration. He said taxes are too high, spending is too high, regulations are too heavy. It sort of makes you wonder who's been in charge the last 3 years.
Our guest, the full hour tonight, is the governor of the state of New York, Mario Cuomo. We are in New York for this broadcast. We'll be going to your calls momentarily. One thing I think most people would be interested in your thoughts on is tabloid journalism and what's happened in America, both electronically and in print, that we have become a wave of sensationalism and sidebars and stories away from those that are more meaningful. Your thoughts?
I'm not sure, Larry, that it's different. I think I have a suspicion from the little history I know that there have always been tabloids. There's always been sensationalism. There are always people excited by it and interested in it, especially in this country. We're very, very young. a couple hundred years old in a world filled with civilizations and societies that are thousands of years older than we are. We're kind of juvenile in terms of the development of our own culture. And these titillating experiences have a special fascination for us, but I don't think it's different now than it was when we were kids, or from what I read, what it was at the turn of the century.
Well, we just saw that clip with Judith Exner. Here we had a president, obviously, dealing stuff away from his presidency that nobody ever reported. Nobody ever reported. And today, I mean, you couldn't go 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, I think revelation has proliferated, and this kind of sensationalism has proliferated as technology has increased the capacity to bring things to people. You have pictures on tubes now. And so all of these impulses and instincts to see the sensational thing, they're fed more readily, and the appetite becomes more voracious, because now you can have pictures, now you can get stuff mailed all over the place. I mean, just the opportunity to sensationalize has grown. But how do I feel about it? Well, I hope 200 years from now, when we're 200 years older, we'll be serious enough as a people where it wouldn't pay you to try selling us that garbage, because our minds are on something
Is the candidate, must Clinton have responded? Are we in that position, too, where when this happens, the candidate must address it?
I don't know. I think, you mean as a practical matter politically? Well, I don't see how you can escape answering the question if it's asked. But Bill Clinton appears to be doing fairly well, considering all the criticism that's been heaped upon him and all that has already been shown. He's still in the race. He's still going forward. The polls seem to be holding up. So
you think it's going to discourage people from going in?
Well, politics has always been tough. And if you can't take the heat, then Harry Truman was right, you have to get out of the kitchen. It's always been like this. Remember Grover Cleveland, illegitimate child, accused of an illegitimate child? There has always been the demand of the people that they scrutinize you in a special way. You ought to be their leader.
By the way, they have that right then?
Well, sure they do.
You're in the public employ.
Sure I am. And when you're in the public employ, as I am, then you have to prepare yourself, because someday somebody will say, on a conversation that he thought was private, this guy's in the mafia. They wouldn't have said that about me if I was a practicing lawyer in a Wall Street firm somewhere. That happens because I open myself to the scrutiny of individuals. By being a politician, you do that knowingly. You have really very little right to complain about it. You know that's part of the price you pay for public service, and you pay it willingly, as Matilda and I and our family did. We think this is a very high privilege, and we think we're really fortunate to have it. We'll pay the price for an occasional shot, undeserved or not.
Arlington, Virginia, we got a call for Governor Mario Cuomo. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
I wanted to ask Governor Cuomo why the Washington Post reported today that friends of his were looking to set up a speech at the JFK School of Government February 12th, 5 days before the New Hampshire primary.
Washington Post reported today that friends of yours are looking to set up a speech for you 5 days before the New Hampshire primary at the Harvard Library.
I don't know anything about that, but I think I'll be at the Harvard Library for a speech that was set up weeks and weeks ago.
Oh, that's a regularly scheduled speech.
Well, I know I'm going to speak on welfare. It has nothing to do with the New Hampshire primary. If I wanted to be in the New Hampshire primary, I would have filed for the New Hampshire primary, which I said no to.
There's a side of you that has to want to get into this. The combative side of you.
Excuse me.
The formative.
I have no combative side, Larry. I'm just...
You're Clark Kent. All right, well, Clark, the Superman side of you must want to get in.
To the presidential...
Yeah, sure. It's the hunt. This is what it's about.
I have never been interested in that. I didn't get into politics until very late. Until after I was 40, until after I had been a baseball player and written a book and been a practicing lawyer and been a law professor and helped run a business and been involved in a lot of businesses and had 5 kids and had a full life. Neither Matilda or I nor my family ever thought about politics. If you went back to the fellas I went to school with and played ball with, they'd say to you he was probably the least likely to be in politics in our group. I mean, they laugh about it when we get together now for old-timers games and things like that. No, it was never my bent. I don't have any particular desire. I don't even like campaigns. I mean, I've done them, and I've done a whole lot of them. I like governing. I like waking up in the morning and knowing you have an infinite number of possibilities to do good things. You can usually foul up, but I don't.
You don't like running?
I don't know a lot of people that do. So no, in all candor, and I've said this before, I never thought about the presidency until October 11th of 1991. I never sat down and said, let me think about whether I should do this thing. People complained that I was taking too long. In less than a couple of months, I made a decision, and the answer was no, I can't do it. I will tell you that I regretted not being able to do it, and that I was ready to do it. And I did feel that, okay, at this stage, I've learned a lot. I've made a lot of mistakes as governor of this great state, but I've learned a lot in the process, too. I've heard what everybody else has to say. I think what I feel and what I know is closer to the truth. I hope that doesn't sound arrogant, but I did have that feeling. And so there was a little bit of regret at having to say, well, no, I've got to stay in New York State. Now, I'm not blaming anybody, and I didn't do anything noble. I ran for office again in 1990, and that's my obligation, and I'm living up to it. But yeah, I think I would have liked to have been a candidate.
Montrose, New York. Hello.
Yeah, Governor, Bill Clinton never used the term mafiosa. The woman used the term mafiosa.
Yeah, well, then, I don't know why he apologized.
No, wait, now listen to me. All he said was that you were being very aggressive. Now, for the first 10 minutes of this show, you talked about, terms used against blacks, against Jews, against mafiosa. You're painting this guy in the corner. I can't understand, if you're a real true Democrat, and you really want to get rid of probably the worst president we've had in years, you're painting one of our leading candidates in a corner. I mean, that's terribly unfair.
May I ask your name?
My name's Al Myers.
Al. I'm sorry.
Happen to be Irish Catholic.
Well, congratulations, Al. I'm sorry, Al. I didn't say it. He and his friend said it. I'm not the one who had somebody on the phone say to him, this guy could have mafia connections, and then laugh about it and say he acts like one.
Yeah.
I mean, excuse me. Hey, look, Al, let's be candid, okay? I didn't start this. I didn't produce it. He did. Nor did I ask him for an apology. He apologized. Before he ever even admitted that it was his voice on the tapes, he apologized, thereby admitting. So if somebody made a mistake here and incriminated Bill Clinton, it was Bill Clinton, not Mario Cuomo. This didn't happen as a result of an accusation by me. I'm not terribly good at accusing people of anything. So your complaint is with Bill. Call him up and say, Bill, why did you do this to yourself?
We'll be back with Governor Mario Cuomo of New York on Larry King Live in New York after this.
This country's in a crisis. I heard a speech, and I saw a format. It was like a gong show.
Fooled once. Mr. President, your fault. Fooled twice, our fault. And we don't intend to be fooled again this year. This is Larry King Live in New York. Tomorrow night, a major discussion on the press and all of this, and our view of the press. Our guest is Governor Cuomo. And don't forget, next Tuesday night, exclusive, a full hour with Judith Campbell Exner. Judith Exner, next Tuesday night on Larry King Live. That's February 4th. Back to the calls. Lake George, New York. Hello.
Yes, New York State is known to have the greatest welfare program in the country. And the people from out of New York State move here because it's a better welfare program than anywhere else in the country. Why should federal tax dollars be used to subsidize this Cadillac of welfare programs?
I'm glad you asked the question because it gives me a chance to put an end, I hope, at least in your mind, to another shibboleth. New York State is very proud of a lot of things. We're 6th in terms of welfare payments. In some years ago, 1975, when we were in deep trouble in New York, our welfare was 117% of poverty. So we were well above the poverty level. Now it's 80% of poverty. If you lived in New York City and you were a welfare mother, you'd get $19 a day. You get about $300 rent if you have a couple of children. In New York City, you can't get a garage for $300. We have one of the toughest work programs in the United States of America.
Cadillac program?
No, they're wrong. It's the Republican Senate line. It's not factual at all. And as a matter of fact, I have repeatedly invited the leader of the Senate Republicans to debate this with me around the state, anywhere, anytime, using a blackboard and facts.
He declines?
Oh, of course.
Right, let's go with the calls. We go to Maui, Hawaii. Hello.
Greetings from the Aloha State to the Empire State.
Aloha. Oh, my God, this is the voice.
Aloha, that's the voice.
This is a
It
smart
has
person,
been
I
said
can tell.
President Ronald Reagan was a man of principles, albeit misguided as they may have been. Does Governor Cuomo feel that President Bush is a man of principles and firm convictions?
That is a very insightful question. Let me say first, I would agree with you about President Reagan. I did not know him well, although I did have the opportunity to spend some time with him on one or two occasions. But I believe he was utterly sincere. I believe that if he was right or wrong, and I thought he was wrong about some things, I think he believed it. And he was consistent. I don't believe President Bush has demonstrated the same consistency, whether it's taxes or, for example, what he's done this year. He denied that there was a recession over and over and over again. Now he admits that there's a recession. He said no to unemployment benefits. Now he takes credit for unemployment benefits. The conservatives in his own party have moved away from President Bush because they believe he is not consistent. I would rather deal with consistency, which is easier to demonstrate, than sincerity, which is a function of the soul and the intent. I'm not God, so I can't read his conscience. I can read his conduct. He is a lot less consistent than President Reagan was.
Therefore, you question whether there are...
No, therefore, I let the caller question.
We'll be right back with Governor Mario Cuomo of New York on Larry King Live and more phone calls after this. When able-bodied people receive government assistance, they have responsibilities to the taxpayer, a responsibility to seek work, education, or job training, a responsibility to get their lives in order, responsibility to hold their families together and refrain from having children out of wedlock. Hello, I'm David French in Washington. Coming up on World News. A day after addressing the nation, President Bush addresses some lawmakers face-to-face to lobby for his economic proposals. That as new figures show only minimal growth in the economy. Those stories and more at the top of the hour, and Larry King will be back after this. Hello, everyone. I'm Jerome Jurenovich with a look at sports here on CNN International. We have a new world record in the 60-meter dash. Andre Kaysen broke Leroy Burrell's world indoor mark with a time of 6.45 seconds at a meet in Belgium, Germany on Wednesday. Burrell set the world record of 6.48 seconds last February at a meet in Madrid. Martina Navratilova began her quest for a record 158th singles title with a second-round victory at the Pan-Pacific Tournament in Tokyo. Navratilova is currently tied with Chris Everett with 157 victories. Steffi Graf, who was forced to withdraw from the tournament, as well as last week's Australian Open, because of a severe viral infection, is expected to return to women's tennis at the Virginia Slims of Florida in early March. Kevin Willis will replace teammate Dominique Wilkins in the NBA All-Star Game. Wilkins suffered a season-ending injury in Tuesday's game with Philadelphia, rupturing his right Achilles tendon. The Atlanta Hawks superstar will now have to wait until next season to reach the milestone 20,000-point plateau. He is only 25 points short. Jury selection was completed in the rape trial of former heavyweight boxing champion Mike Tyson. Believe it or not, tickets to the jury selection Wednesday were being scalped. Only 17 tickets were available to the public, and with that in mind, a college student who waited in line since 1 a.m. local time to get one promptly turned around and sold it for $100. That's sports for now here on CNN International. I'm Jerome Jurenovich.
Only one network is seen, believed, and quoted in more than 100 countries around the world.
With Governor Cuomo, I know you mentioned Buchanan earlier as not serious. Do you think he might do well in New Hampshire? Just a political question.
I'm not an expert at these things, but he has a plausibility to him. He certainly delivers the message well, and he has what President Reagan had. He has that passion of conviction, whether he is saying something you agree with or not. It comes through that he believes what he says. That'll get him points. So, yeah, he's a factor.
President Nixon said on this program that he thought Buchanan would get 40%. He also said that he thought you would be unquestionably the toughest candidate the Democrats put up.
President Nixon
said that. Any comment?
No.
No comment?
No.
Trenton, New Jersey. Hello.
Good evening, Governor.
Hi.
Governor, within the last month and a half to 2 months, I recall watching Vice President Quayle on a morning television show, or maybe some other show, where he made a very distinct reference to you as Mario, in a term that I would consider very much similar to the references of Governor Clinton in your relationship to a quote-unquote mafioso. Would you compare them as being the same type of thinking and that type of comment?
You compare Quayle's emphasizing Mario to Clinton's discussion on the phone?
Well, the vice president said he didn't mean anything like that, and I'll take him at his word. I don't particularly mind hearing people say Mario if they say it well. You know, there's a certain loveliness to the sound. I like the neat arrangement of vowels in the name, and it can be said with a kind of affection and respect that I very much enjoy. But whether it's being said as a matter of affection or to mock you, it requires that you read a person's mind and heart, and that can be ambiguous. The Vice President of the United States, the second most important person in our government, tells me that he didn't mean to be offensive. Then maybe that's what it was. I'd prefer not to believe the worst.
More than Clinton?
Well, the Clinton situation is altogether different, because in the Clinton situation, Bill Clinton apologized, or at least tried to. Now, what are you apologizing for? I didn't ask him for an apology. So the judgment was made by Bill Clinton that whatever was done in that conversation was wrong. I didn't make the judgment first. He did. Incidentally, I agree with him. It was wrong. But he apologized.
So therefore, it deserves an apology. Hollywood, California, hello.
Yes, hello, Governor Cuomo.
Yes.
I think it's a shame that you're not running, but since you're not, and since the Democratic nominee this year will no doubt go up against the same kind of Republican sloganeering that they did in 1988, like the ACLU and the flag and Willie Horton, what is your advice to the Democratic nominee?
First of all, I'm not sure you're right. And this is one of the happy parts of the analysis we can make. I don't believe they can get away with it this time. I believe, and I said months and months ago when President Bush was at 80% in the polls on a national show, the interviewer, Bob Schieffer, I think, said to me, do you really think that President Bush could be beaten? Now, he was way up there. He was about at 80%. And I said, absolutely. And the reason is that he has no rationale. There is nothing he can say to justify his candidacy. As a matter of fact, if you had to think of the slogan right now, this was months ago, it would be, I won the war, the other guy's a bum. He could not say, I gave you a better economy, I put you to work, I did your infrastructure, I stopped drugs, I educated your children, I brought sweetness to the United States. He couldn't say any of that. And because he does not have a rationale, he's going to be very vulnerable. I went further. I think I said, I'm not even sure that the war will be a big plus for him by the time you get to the election. So that, not prophetic, but a pretty good guess. Now, this makes all the difference, because now the president's in a position where he has to make his own case. He cannot win by deriding his opponent. He cannot win by trying to make fun of Clinton, or Tsongas, or Harkin, or Brown, or Kerry. He can't win that way. He has to justify himself. That's what he was supposed to do last night, and I believe he failed. You can't do the cheap shots this time the way he did the last time. So that's the good news.
But he could run against Congress, couldn't he?
He could run against Congress, and that's obviously what he's doing. You know, I started to say something before that I think I really better try to get in here. What he has said is, I give the Congress 52 days to do everything, March 20th or whatever it is, and if they don't do it by then I'm going to beat you up for having failed. In New York, there are words for that kind of conduct. It is consummate presumption. It took him 52 weeks to figure out there was a recession. Now he wants in 52 days the whole Congress to say you can have everything you want, or else he's going to say the Congress didn't work. Let me make something clear. I'm a governor. I am not running for president because I failed to get my legislature to adopt a budget on time. That's my responsibility. Now, part of them are Republican, and some people say, well, the Republicans resisted you. So what? I'm the governor. I'm supposed to produce. This president has an obligation to go to the Congress of the United States of America, albeit they're Democrat-controlled, and make an economic plan right now. Not this fraudy, superficial, insubstantial array of bonbon that he laid out last night. A real plan that puts people to work, that deals with education, that deals with the decade of the child, that strengthens our children. Sit down with the Democratic leaders right now, Mr. President, and produce an economic plan. The alternative, Larry, is to have the President's State of the Union be a kind of political flag. Okay, this is my flag, I'm going to wave it, and then the Democrats put up their flag. You gave a capital gains tax cut, we're going to give one on Social Security to the middle class, and you'll get nowhere. We will spend a whole year waving flags at one another. There'll be no economic plan. There'll be no relief for the people who are out of work. There'll be no building of the infrastructure, nothing more to fight the drugs, nothing more to educate more than 180 days a year, which we need. Nothing good will happen until after the election. That means you lose a whole year. That should be enough to defeat the president. You have to produce a plan, Mr. President. You have to produce it now. Don't play this game of blaming the Congress. I can't blame my legislature. That's why I'm still in New York. You can't blame the Congress. Your role is to lead. To lead means to produce a plan that saves us. And the Democrat role is to be responsible in dealing with it.
Let me get a quick break, come back with our closing comment. Remind you that Inside Politics tonight at 12:30 Eastern Time. The guest is Paul Tsongas, former United States Senator. We'll be right back with our remaining moments with Mario Cuomo right after this quick break.
Hello everyone, I'm Karen McGinnis at the Casino Center in Atlanta. Look at some daytime high temperatures coming up for Thursday afternoon. If you're traveling to Dallas, 59 in your forecast. Miami, just about the warmest place, perhaps, for Thursday afternoon, 82. Chicago, 42, so temperatures have moderated just a little bit. A powerful storm system moves on shore in the Pacific Northwest, high winds, and plenty of rainfall. Could see several inches with the snow at the highest elevations. Denver, sunny and 55, and for Los Angeles, 79. Now these forecasts. Here are a few of the latest breaking stories from around the world. I'm Jane McCauley. The AIDS virus has caused many of us to think differently about sexual promiscuity. Thus, it is not surprising that the Thai cabinet struck a nerve when on Wednesday it approved a draft law that would allow women older than 18 to engage in prostitution as long as they underwent regular health checks and carried health cards to prove it. Opposition groups critiqued that such a bill would give the green light to legalized prostitution. The cabinet press release said the new law would give prostitutes the chance of rehabilitation rather than face penalties. The cabinet did, however, call for heavier penalties for pimps and brothel owners. The European Community on Wednesday approved of a plan by the Association of Southeastern Asian Nations to create a free trade area by the year 2008. A spokesman quoting the EC Commissioner for Asia said another positive move was made when the sixth nation ASEAN also agreed to improve political relations with the EC and other Asian countries. The countries represented in the association are Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand. Thanks for watching CNN International. Please stay tuned for more on the latest news.
We just have a minute left, reminding you Paul Tsongas on Inside Politics tonight at 12:30. Next Tuesday night, Judith Campbell-Exner. Tomorrow night on Larry King Live, a major discussion on the press coverage and this whole tabloidism. A final word, Governor Cuomo, Yogi Berra said, never say never. Might there be hope for those who want you?
Well, I think for the people who agree with the things that I say, there's a great deal of hope.
Not for you.
Well, for me personally, I don't think that's the important thing. I think the important thing is the things that I believe capable of becoming the Democratic platform and succeeding. And I think there is a very good chance of that. Because I think I'm right about what I believe, and I think eventually the Democrats will be saying pretty much what I'm saying.
Any forecast on New Hampshire, Democrats?
No, I wish them all well.
All?
Okay, all of them. All of them, absolutely.
Governor Mario Cuomo, the governor of New York. Always good to have him with us. Thanks for joining us. Tomorrow night, another edition of Larry King Live from back at the home base in Washington. For Governor Cuomo, yours truly, our whole crew here in New York, everyone in Atlanta and in Washington, good night. This is CNN International.
CNN's World News. What you need to know, what you want to know. With Susan Ruck in Atlanta and David French in Washington.
Just delighted to support the family, you see. With the speech over, the job of selling the budget begins. Thanks for joining us. A day after delivering his State of the Union address, President Bush was back on Capitol Hill. He met separately with House and Senate Republicans to lobby for his budget plan and his prescriptions for reviving the economy. There were some political undercurrents to the trip, as senior White House correspondent Charles Bierbauer reports.
President Bush says that in order to deal with the economy, he's willing to lay politics aside for a while.
You're all in the political process. A third of this group is running. I'm running. Many other Democrats are out there running. And it'd be unrealistic to think that if we get later into the year, we can get as much done as we should get done for the American people.
We want to act. We intend to act. We will act. Not because of this so-called deadline, but because it's the right thing to do. It's what the economy needs. It's what the country needs.
The president, in the State of the Union address, had laid down a March 20th deadline for action on the short-term economic stimuli.
From the day after that, if it must be, the battle is joined.
On issues such as capital gains taxes and health plans, the president might as well consider the battle joined now.
Well, it takes unmitigated gall to come around and give us really a deadline when he's the one that's avoided any action for the last 90 days.
Both Republicans and Democrats say the economy needs urgent attention. The uncertainty is whether they will work together or at odds.
I don't think the Democrats in any way, shape, or form are going to do anything to help get this economy moving again unless it's their ideas. They're not going to do anything to help this president get reelected.
But the president's State of the Union address may have helped his re-election effort. A CNN USA Today Gallup poll taken right after the speech found 38% of those polled more likely to vote for him as a result of the speech. 9% less likely, 50% were unmoved. Voters were divided on the president's motive. 44% saw the speech aimed at solving problems, but 41% saw it aimed at Bush's re-election.
What he's trying to do is pick a fight with the Congress and then use the Congress as the whipping boy as he goes out to campaign for re-election.
Some Democrats fear Bush wins if he can blame Congress, and wins too if they go along with him. But Congress could also be President Bush's straw man. For all that he is ready to do battle there now, come November, he won't be running against Congress, but will have to defend his own record as president. Charles Bierbauer, CNN, the White House.
Right now, the economy is doing little to help the president's chances in November. A new report shows the nation's gross domestic product barely moved during the last 3 months of 1991, inching up at an annual rate of just 0.3% for the year. It actually slipped 0.7%. Still, Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan told the Senate committee today that the economy is turning around and needs no further interest rate cuts or tax cuts.
Yeah, nothing further should be done. I mean, that's basically your view right now.
Yes, that's correct, Senator. I would, if I had my choice, knowing all the uncertainties of which there are innumerable ones, but one has got to make a decision. The decision I would make at this stage is for the moment to do nothing.
Wall Street did not respond well to Greenspan's remarks. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped more than 47 points to close at 32.24. Many people were hoping the president would propose a tax cut for the middle class, but he didn't. Instead, he proposed several other ideas to put at least some extra money in the pockets of average Americans. CNN's Bob Franken explains.
It's not a tax cut, but the president's biggest surprise will mean a small increase in nearly each American worker's take-home pay. It doesn't need congressional approval, so the president can order slightly less money withheld each week. The theory is that it puts about $2 billion out there each month for people to buy things and boost the lethargic economy. But for each married worker, it provides up to an extra $6.63 a week starting March 1st, or about an extra $345 a year, which will be made up by a smaller refund at the end of the year.
The change we are making is automatic. If an employee wants to elect out, they notify their employer to maintain their withholding at current levels.
The president proposes several tax breaks aimed at families, and therefore politically attractive ones. One is the added personal exemption for children only, up to $500 a child as a deduction. That would begin October 1st, if Congress agrees, and would amount this year to $37.50 in the pocket of a two-child family, about $150 when fully in effect next year. Democrats teed off on that, charging it was paltry compared to capital gains tax reduction proposals.
While the president offers families with kids a tax break this year of $37.50, he wants to give an $18,000 tax break to Americans earning over $200,000 a year.
Student loans is another politically attractive proposal. The president would restore deductions for interest on student loans. Only home loans are now deductible. A new flexible IRA could also be used for college costs. Unlike the old IRAs, deposits would not be deductible, but after 7 years, the principal and interest could be taken out tax-free. As for health care, this area is unclear since the president's policy is still being formed. So far, the administration proposes to provide what amounts to payments for the poor, filtered through the states. The states would then provide vouchers that would be used to pay for health insurance. But critics complain it would be paid for by cutbacks in programs like Medicaid and ignores middle-class Americans who lack insurance. Which reinforces the point that with the exception of the withholding reduction, the president's proposals are merely that, proposals, subject to political fights, which frankly will mean that most of them will not go into effect in this highly charged political year. Bob Franken, CNN, Capitol Hill.
Still to come on World News, why the Pentagon wants to cut high-tech weapons of war but is defending troop strength.
Also, she appeared at news conferences, but the woman accusing Governor Bill Clinton of marital infidelity pays the price for not showing up at her job.
A sour economy destroys the simple life and simple dreams for many people living in small-town USA.
And a millionaire with a strong work ethic and the desire to see the U.S. economy flourish again. Hello, I'm Jane McCauley. Here are some stories making headlines around the world. Somalia's warring factions may be invited to the United Nations. According to an emissary to the Secretary General, Boutros Ghali is considering extending an invitation to representatives from both sides of the conflict in hopes of improving prospects for ceasefire talks. Supporters of Mohammed Adi and forces loyal to interim President Ali Mahdi have been fighting since mid-November. The civil war in Somalia has already claimed 20,000 lives. A fire at a nuclear plant in Bulgaria apparently was caused by faulty cables. The blaze broke out at the Kozloduy nuclear power station Wednesday, but firefighters arrived on the scene in time to prevent any radioactive leakage. The International Atomic Energy Commission had recommended closing down 4 of the plant's oldest reactors early last year. 2 were shut down, the other 2 were repaired, and they're still running. Stay tuned for more news updates from around the world. I'm Jane McCauley. You're watching CNN International. It touches each and every one of us. It's changed the destiny of nations, created world leaders, and toppled others. It can transport you across the globe, as well as to corners of the universe never dreamed possible. Nothing else has the power to cover our world like television, and nothing on television can cover our world like CNN. The military took a hit in the president's proposed budget. He called for slashing expensive strategic systems, but maintaining troop levels. Yet Democrats want more cuts. They say the bloated Pentagon budget needs a meat cleaver, not a paring knife. CNN's Wolf Blitzer explains why defense officials are trying to guard against even deeper cuts.
Defense Secretary Dick Cheney came armed with charts and graphs to defend his proposed budget cuts, but he also warned against going too far.
Future peace and stability in the world will continue to depend in large measure upon the willingness of the United States to deploy forces overseas in Europe, the Pacific, and the Middle East, and to retain high-quality forces here at home.
Among those big-ticket weapon systems being terminated, the B-2 stealth bomber. Production will cease after 20 are built. The Air Force had wanted 75. Cancellation will save $14 billion. The proposed Midget Man nuclear missile. Nuclear warheads for submarine-launched Trident missiles, marking the first time since World War II that the U.S. has no nuclear weapons in production. The Navy's nuclear-powered Seawolf submarine, killing that program, will save $17.5 billion. And the Army's new Comanche helicopter.
This is a historic change. This is unprecedented, and it's truly, I think, a remarkable achievement.
Still, there are already calls in Congress for additional cuts.
I think failing to reduce defense spending more over the next 5 years is going to cost us very, very dearly in desperately needed investment right here in the United States in our own country.
The Pentagon wants a $1.5 billion increase in spending for the Strategic Defense Initiative, the so-called Star Wars program. Cheney says Russian President Boris Yeltsin should come around to support SDI.
I continue to be hopeful that just as communism is no more in the Soviet Union, eventually they'll see the light on the importance of defenses as well.
The Pentagon will continue other programs, including the C-17 transport plane and the new F-22 jet fighter. The Navy will retain its 12-carrier fleet. The reduction in overall troop strength will continue as planned before the collapse of the Soviet Union. Basic research into new systems also will continue with one big change. Money won't automatically be spent to go into production. In the coming days, Cheney and Powell will appear before several congressional committees. They know there will be changes, but they'll try to keep those changes to a minimum. Wolf Blitzer, CNN, the Pentagon.
Russian Republic President Boris Yeltsin is accelerating the arms reduction race. Russian officials claim nuclear missiles will no longer be aimed at U.S. targets. Yeltsin is proposing deep cuts in nuclear and conventional forces. He spoke on nationwide TV shortly after President Bush delivered his State of the Union address.
I'm hoping that this plan will win the support and understanding of all the peoples in the Commonwealth. I'm positive that this plan fully meets the interests of our country and of other world nations. If we succeed in carrying out this plan, translating it into reality, our life will be more secure, it will be safer, and we will be better off.
Yeltsin kept his morning appointment in Moscow with Secretary of State James Baker. Mr. Yeltsin's presence eased mounting concerns over his rather mysterious absence both Monday and Tuesday. The Russian president heads Thursday for continuing arms reduction talks with President Bush and others at the United Nations in New York.
When we return to world news, the latest on 2 sensational trials. 14 people ready to decide whether admitted murderer Jeffrey Dahmer was insane. And in Mike Tyson's rape trial, grumbling about who is deciding his fate. Stay tuned. complex world. A blend of beliefs, different ideas, different lifestyles. But the news you hear about the rest of your world is what most networks think you should hear. Only one program lets you decide what's important, with reports from journalists who live out the story, instead of outsiders who look in. Nothing offers a wider view, or a closer one, uncut, uncensored. And above all, a window on what sparks the human spirit. CNN World Report. Local stories with global appeal. Only on CNN International.
The stage is set for the opening statements in the sanity trial of Jeffrey Dahmer. The last of 14 jurors was chosen, and all now are sequestered. The panel will be trimmed to 12 when testimony ends. Lawyers will begin their opening statements tomorrow morning. Jurors were warned they will hear sometimes gruesome testimony as they decide if Dahmer was sane when he killed and often mutilated 15 victims.
Opening arguments are ready to roll in another major trial. A mostly white male jury was picked today. The 12 will decide whether former heavyweight boxing champ Mike Tyson is guilty of raping an 18-year-old beauty contestant. As CNN's Jeff Flock reports from Indianapolis, already the trial has turned into quite a show.
Like Mike Tyson's prize fights, his rape trial, too, is turning into pay-per-view.
I sold my ticket to the trial this morning.
Greg Odell got in line at 2 a.m. to get one of the courtroom passes being handed out to the public. Then he sold it for $100.
You think it's a good deal?
Yes. It is. Only problem, by the time the buyer got into the courtroom, the jury had already been picked, and Mike Tyson was long gone. I may have to buy another one tomorrow. Maybe not. Judge Patricia Gifford got word of the ticket scalping and ruled it out of order.
Any violation of the foregoing may result in punishment as criminal contempt of court.
As for the jury, it is mostly young, mostly male, mostly white. 9 white, 3 black, 8 men, 4 women. Average age, 35 years old.
If you're a prosecutor, you want him to be able to have the guts to convict.
And attorney observer Mark Shaw says he sees that.
Frankly, it's just a gut hunch, Jeff, but I felt like the prosecution might have gotten a little bit better of it.
Get out of my way! Reporters got the better of Tyson as he tried to dodge their glare for his morning road work. I'm telling you right now, quit it! And Tyson was considerably cheerier when he arrived at the courthouse. That's Camille Ewald at his side. She helped raise Tyson as a boy and sat in on the morning court session to provide moral support. Tyson then helped his defense team make their final jury challenges and then went home early.
Now, Mike Tyson now heads home having participated in selecting the jury that will hear his case. As they say in boxing, the preliminaries are now over and the main event is about to begin.
I'm Jeff Flock, CNN, in Indianapolis. A defendant was sentenced and his jury harshly criticized inside a New York courtroom today. El Said Nosser was sentenced to up to 22 years in prison for charges stemming from the murder of Israeli extremist Meir Kahane. Nosser was acquitted of charges he killed Kahane because no one actually saw him pull the trigger. Judge Alvin Schlesinger said the jury's decision in the case was devoid of common sense and logic.
The latest round of Middle East peace talks ended today with a sense of optimism. Both the Israelis and the Egyptians agree progress is being made. The upbeat tone of the meetings in Moscow came despite a boycott by the Palestinian, Syrian, and Lebanese delegations. The meetings focused on issues such as the economy and the environment. The participants were pleased enough with developments to plan a series of conferences in the spring.
Cuban troops reportedly fired on 13 members of a family seeking to escape onto a U.S. naval base. The report says 2 youngsters were wounded in the weekend attack, but one man managed to escape onto the Guantanamo naval base by crawling through a cactus field. The U.S. State Department says it does not know the status of the other family members. And U.S. officials want a federal appeals court to quickly decide the fate of some 10,000 Haitian refugees at that base. They say conditions there have become dangerously overcrowded. Former Philippine First Lady Imelda Marcos says her arrest in Manila today won't deter her bid for the presidency. Marcos was booked and fingerprinted at a local police station and later released after posting bond. The government accuses her of corruption during her term as First Lady and for keeping unauthorized overseas bank accounts. If Marcos is elected president in May, the charges against her will be suspended until her term ends. She called today's arrest relentless harassment.
Still ahead, it is being praised as a solid foundation to aiding the economy. President Bush's proposal to help first-time home buyers.
Which country in the world offers attractive investment opportunities? The answer is Pakistan. Which country offers the most ideal strategic locations for your business activities? The answer is Pakistan. From where can you get fully developed infrastructure and abundant and competent manpower at reasonable wages? The answer is Pakistan. Which country offers import concessions on machinery and raw materials and generous tax bargaining? The answer is again Pakistan. substantial deregulation of foreign investment, accelerated privatization of public enterprises. So visit Pakistan, and visit what it offers you generously. Come, see and invest in Pakistan, because the time is right. For further information, Pakistani missions for the Ministry of Industry.
The Bethlehem Steel Corporation is eliminating 6,500 workers and planning massive restructuring to combat mounting losses. Steel giant says it lost $638 million in the fourth quarter of last year. The company is selling its Johnstown-based bar, rod, and wire division. The job cuts amount to 1/4 of Bethlehem's total workforce. The recession and tough overseas competition are forcing Bethlehem's hand.
There is some discontent over President Bush's plan to boost the economy with a moratorium on federal regulations. Some argue the proposal will not work. The result will be lasting problems. CNN's Francis Hardin reports.
Environmentalists are certain the moratorium will hurt their cause.
This is not about helping the economy. This is about helping the president's campaign contributors and corporate supporters.
We're going to see more air pollution, more water pollution, more toxic wastes as a result of the moratorium on new regulations, and potential for even more damage if existing laws are reversed or curbed in some fashion in the future.
The president's call for a 90-day halt on federal regulations is supposed to help spark the stalled economy.
In those 90 days, major departments and agencies will carry out a top-to-bottom review of all regulations, old and new, to stop the ones that will hurt growth and speed up those that will help growth.
Last September, George Bush used the Grand Canyon as a prop to stress his commitment to the environment. But experts say the moratorium could affect the Clean Air Act and other Bush-supported bills, such as the Americans with Disabilities Act and the 1991 Civil Rights legislation.
And that makes it awkward for President Bush, because it makes it appear as if he is trying to both favor the laws but worry about the costs.
Ms. Cannon, who served in the Reagan White House, supports the moratorium, but doubts it can have a major impact on the economy. The administration denies that the clean air regulations will be held up. As for other laws, the Environmental Protection Agency is vague.
Not being evasive, I can't tell you significant regulations that we know will be affected by it, but we will. We'll certainly be open about it as we go through this period and review the slate.
Administration officials say regulations protecting health and safety will not be altered, nor will criminal laws be affected. But some regulations affecting the export of high-tech products and some industrially sensitive products could be lifted. Francis Hardin, CNN, Washington.
A Florida woman is suing the Dow Corning Company for $100 million, claiming she got sick from wearing silicone gel breast implants. The woman's attorney said she received the implants in 1985. On January 6th, the Food and Drug Administration placed a voluntary moratorium on the implants because of reports of health problems. The agency also has given Dow Corning until February 7th to release documents on Dow's analysis of the implants.
Danny Tomei is back home with his family and his dog. The 11-year-old walked out of a Connecticut hospital today 2 months after being hit by a car, suffering a near-fatal head injury. At one point, he was in a coma, but doctors say he was jarred out of it when someone mentioned his dog, Rusty. The dog later was brought in to help with his therapy. Danny says he looks forward to playing with Rusty, but he sums up the whole idea of going back to school in one word: yucky.
Still to come on World News, we check on the American dream in one middle-class town.
This is CNN International.
Headlines this hour, President Bush heads back to Capitol Hill as a bitter election year battle brews over taxes and spending. Mr. Bush consolidated Republican support for his package of a capital gains tax cut and several other breaks. Democrats attack his proposals as short-sighted. For instance, Democrats attack the president's military cutbacks as far too little. Mr. Bush would trim military spending this year by $10 billion. Over 5 years, the total would reach $50 billion. Defense Secretary Dick Cheney said today it is the most that can be cut without harming national security.
President Bush's economic recovery plan includes a $5,000 tax credit over 2 years for first-time home buyers and other measures to revive the ailing real estate industry. Some prospective home buyers and real estate professionals are hailing these proposals as a positive step. CNN's Mike Capps reports. Jay and Jody Young of Grand Prairie, Texas, are shopping for their first home. President Bush's State of the Union message, his proposed $5,000 tax credit to first-time buyers, increased the Young's desire to buy.
First of all, with the interest rates going down earlier this year, and this new tax credit, and $5,000 is a lot of money.
And the proposal would allow the Youngs to withdraw up to $20,000 from individual retirement accounts without penalty for a down payment. First-time buyers may soon be able to afford a new home.
A lot of times, that's the problem for first-time buyers. They don't have a down payment. If they can do that with the early withdrawal with the IRA, that'll help.
The president also proposes tax deductions for those losing money on home sales. He calls for deductions aimed at increasing resale values on office buildings. And Mr. Bush wants pension fund law changes allowing easier investment in commercial real estate.
I would rather see more employment creation.
An SMU economist questions the wisdom of rerouting savings into the real estate market.
We can never sell single-family homes to the Japanese. We will never reduce our trade deficit by a penny by building single-family homes because they're non-tradable.
In 1991, the home building industry went through its worst year for new housing starts since World War II. Home builders echo President Bush, saying housing led the U.S. out of recession before and will again.
The first-time buyers buy their first home. The people from whom they buy the home, assuming it is not new, will then be able to buy up, and that starts the whole thing steamrolling.
Then we can begin financing.
Home builders now plan a massive lobbying effort in Congress aimed at helping themselves and first-time buyers like Jay and Jody Young. Mike Capps, CNN, Grand Prairie, Texas.
Jennifer Flowers, the woman who says she had a 12-year affair with presidential candidate Bill Clinton, has lost her state job. Her boss says Flowers failed to show up for work or call for 3 full days. She made $17,000 a year as an administrative assistant at a state agency. The Wall Street Journal says she was paid at least $130,000 for her story.
Clinton, meantime, was back in New Hampshire today trying to shake off the effects of the latest controversy. He apologized for taped remarks he made about New York Governor Mario Cuomo, remarks recorded by Flowers. On the tape, Clinton is heard saying Cuomo acts like a mafia figure and accuses him of being a mean son of a bitch. Clinton told CNN today he meant no malice by his remarks.
Tonight, Governor Cuomo said the problem goes far beyond Clinton's words and behavior in this particular episode. Speaking with CNN's Larry King, Cuomo expressed worry about what the words say about Clinton, the man.
I'm not sure that the misplaced affection, which is infidelity, and I don't mean to demean it, but the idea of loving imprudently or unwisely, I'm not sure that that's as bad as encouraging people to hate one another. And I think our own mayor, David Dinkins, has said it very well in New York City. All that living room talk, okay, you make laws against bias when it's done in public, but a really insidious form is when you're all alone. You know, when you talk about that other group, when you're all alone. That has to be stopped. And one great contribution we can make is when it happens in a living room or in a telephone call. You just express your unhappiness about it. You can do that without losing a friendship.
Cuomo also described President Bush's budget plan as, quote, a disaster. He said the president should be fighting the economic troubles with the same fervor that he showed in the war with Iraq.
Well, parents often comment that they hope their children will have more than they did. Whether that means opportunity or economic stability, in the past, most Americans have been able to live up to their parents' dream. A CNN Gallup poll asked people if they were satisfied with the opportunity of the next generation of Americans to live better than their parents. 61% said they were not satisfied. As part of an ongoing look at the State of the Union, we check on the American dream by visiting one town featured in a U.S. government film 50 years ago. CNN's Larry Lamont visits Madison, Indiana, in the conclusion to our series, Promises, Promises. Martine DeTillo, home for the holidays in tiny Madison, Indiana.
It feels good to be a part of a big Italian family. You feel like you're something. You've got other people who care about you.
Family, caring, feeling special. A few ingredients in the recipe for the American dream. And generations of families have lived it right here in Madison, where they own their own homes, have job security, and safety from crime. But America is reluctantly changing to a service economy. And Madison is a manufacturing town.
Yeah, the force up and the force down divided by 2.
It's been increasingly hard for this former frontier outpost to provide the types of jobs some of the young people are seeking.
The family closeness, the trust, everything that Madison once had will probably leave.
The name of that town is Madison. It lies on the Ohio River.
in the Midwestern state of Indiana.
In 1943, the government said Madison epitomized American values, democracy, and family life. So it made a film about this riverside stop at the end of the rainbow, settled by immigrants pursuing the American dream.
Young Datillo has been here all his life, too.
The Datillos were there. Their grandfather was an Italian immigrant.
I do remember when they told me they said they'll just smile and eat your spaghetti when they tell you to.
The Datillo sisters and their brothers still live in Madison.
Objection, it's not relevant.
Tom Datillo has his own law practice. Leonard and Tony co-own the fruit company their father founded. This is a family town where generations stay and pass on values.
You know, we were taught to respect other people and other people's rights, and the idea that to love your neighbor, you know, that's what our parents taught us, and those things are still true today.
Madison doesn't have mean streets like those in the big cities. It's a conservative town, old-fashioned, a place where people don't laugh when you talk about mom, apple pie, and the American flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Our Heavenly Father, we indeed thank you for this opportunity tonight. Be with both teams. Protect us from injury.
The film reveals a town where what you saw then, you see today. Many of the landmarks have been preserved. And businesses like the newspaper has stayed in the same family for more than 150 years. But Madison isn't living in a time warp protected from the outside world. A military weapons testing site is slated to be closed. 400 jobs at stake. And the recession has forced some layoffs at the manufacturing plants, so vital to the county's economy.
You want chocolate one? Okay.
You hear about it in the small town gathering spots.
I didn't have nobody to get started with. And what these kids gonna do? I don't know.
Unemployment is very bad, and the jobs are just, they're just not here. So consequently, kids are looking at elsewhere.
And when they leave, the tight-knit family structure, the value system, the tradition, are threatened. Leonard's son, Len, is studying computers in college and may not return to Madison.
Small-town America can't flounder, otherwise we're ruined. I mean, we need this. The cities have already lost a lot of family structure.
Some places in the city seem to have no structure at all. And when you ask here about the American dream, they laugh.
I hope the next 12 hours I get out here and make it home without getting shot down on the street of Randall without however may happen.
These mean streets in Cincinnati surround the college dormitory where Martine Datillo lives.
Yeah, I hear women scream sometimes, and I hear gunshots at night a lot. About once a week, you'll hear a gunshot go off. Yeah, it's scary because the screams come from down in the ravine, and you never know what it is or what's going on. It's scary. My name is Martine, and I'm a student nurse today.
Martine's dream is to become a nurse. She had to leave Madison to study, and doesn't think she'll return to her hometown after she graduates. Just not enough opportunity in her chosen field.
I think that the American dream will be harder to reach, and that it probably was easier for my father than it is for me.
I hate to say it, but I think it would be more difficult for them because of the way the world is changing. But they'll just have to toughen up and make it.
Some haven't toughened up. They've given up. National surveys show fewer Americans still have faith in the American dream. Fewer can afford homes. Fewer have job security. They're still keeping the faith in places like Madison, Indiana, holding their heads high, proud. Some are even confident the young people will return someday. Maybe. But those forced to leave have already lost some of the key ingredients in that recipe for the American dream.
Safety and security, family, friends. And I guess just the idea of having my mom and dad there for me whenever I need them. Giving up that's hard.
And growing harder. If idyllic small-town Madison is struggling with the promises of a better tomorrow, it's no wonder the dream is fading in every state of the Union. Lorella Mott, CNN Special Reports, Madison, Indiana.
Just ahead on World News, the space shuttle astronauts finish their final day of work in space and get ready for the trip home. More on their week-long journey when World News continues.
Hello, I'm Jane McCauley with CNN International. Here's a look at a few headlines making the news. Government and union representatives from Bolivia signed an agreement Wednesday which ended a 42-day strike by state mining workers. More than 350 of the protesters had staged a hunger strike to demonstrate their disenchantment with the existing conditions. The agreement, mediated by the Catholic Church, will allow workers to participate in the privatization of mines and monthly salary increases of up to 20%. Palestinian hardliner George Habash was flown from Tunis to Paris Wednesday after suffering a stroke in his home on Monday. The 67-year-old head of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine collapsed after feeling strong head pains, Palestinian spokesman reported. PLO Chairman Yasser Arafat chartered a French ambulance plane to fly Habash to France, where according to one official, he was conscious but having difficulty with speech. Habash suffered a stroke in 1979 that left his right arm paralyzed and dependent on a cane to walk. The guerrilla leader caught world attention when he began to use airliner hijackings as a means to call attention to the plight of his people. Please stay tuned with CNN International for the latest news from around the world. I'm Jane McCauley. Thank you for watching.
The crew of the Space Shuttle Discovery is wrapping up its final series of experiments tonight in what is likely its final full day orbiting the Earth. The 7 astronauts and scientists conducted more tests today on human weightlessness and examined the growth of yellow slime mold and space crystals. They also took time to view the Earth nearly 200 miles below. CNN will provide live coverage of the Discovery landing tomorrow, now scheduled for 11:07 a.m. Eastern Time.
Many young scholars do their learning in the classroom with old textbooks and out-of-date equipment, but some get to work with the best equipment and with real scientists. CNN's Audrey Galix reports on the discoveries being made in the Young Scholars Program. Melt it, crack it, dissolve it, measure it. That's how these high school students are studying the toughness of glass. These students, chosen as young scholars, are designing and conducting experiments at Alfred University. It's part of a national program funded in part by the National Science Foundation to introduce high school students to a variety of scientific disciplines. Some of these budding scientists had never considered studying the science of glass. Some had never used the equipment involved in studying it.
The equipment here has been unbelievable. It's nothing compared to what my school has, and it was great fun playing around with different things, tools, and instruments.
The students also see scientific collaboration in action.
Well, this particular project is involved with the use of artificially made fertilizer composed almost totally of glass. My particular expertise is in the area of glass, and Rich Hoffman's is in the area of the plant and nutrition. Our hope now is to take this glass material and put it into an environment that will slowly degrade, slowly break down, and those nutrients that we've got in that glass, now they become available to the plant.
The students take it from there. They apply the fertilizer, grow the corn, measure dry, and weigh it, and work with professors to analyze the results. The teenagers spend 2 weeks on campus in the summer, in labs and classrooms and on field trips. They continue their science projects during the school year and return to campus periodically to compare notes and results. Some of the science lessons in the Young Scholars Program are lessons in the science of life. It's hard to work with different people in a lab when you want to do what you want to do and you have to combine it with what the other people want to do. Whether these student scientists turn pro is uncertain. Some do, but one professor says they will all learn one of the great lessons of science, that the future is wide open to more scientific exploration. Audrey Galix for CNN.
Now, from Turner Pictures, a savage battle of revenge.
Why'd you wait to come after me?
Now, you have a son.
No!
Your son will be my son. The only thing stronger than his will to survive was her will to believe.
You can buy some time. They think there's something magical going on here.
There is Jacob.
What is this spirit? What god does your woman worship?
I will tell you.
Chris Christopherson, Kim Cattrall. Miracle in the Wilderness. Now, from Turner Pictures.
Only one network is seen, believed, and quoted in more than 100 countries around the world. Big doings in the weather. That's a technical term. Let's get to Dale's news, my goodness. Yes, listen, we have the first hurricane in the month of January in the Central Pacific ever reported, and apparently it may have something to do with El Nino because of the warm water temperatures here. This storm system is going to be intensifying, and this is a system that does bear watching. It apparently is moving over Palmyra, which is an atoll just about in the middle of nowhere in the Pacific, or about 1,100 miles to the southwest of the Hawaiian Islands. Now, Palmyra has an interesting history in that it was a refueling point for the Pan Am Clipper. It's not expected to affect Johnson Island, which lies to the northwest, or the Hawaiian Islands. However, it may move in the vicinity of Howland Island, which is, as you may well remember, was the island that Amelia Earhart was looking for in the Pacific. Right now, the winds are at 75 miles an hour, moving towards the west at just about 13 miles an hour. It does occasionally have gusts up to 90 miles per hour. Let's show you what's happening on the lower 48 across the United States and in Canada. A very vigorous weather system is keeping a rather active pattern across British Columbia with some wind gusts as high as 62 miles per hour. It's raining at Alexandria, also Abilene in Texas and New Orleans, and a few scattered showers have materialized throughout the day across Jacksonville, Florida, and some freezing precipitation across some of the southern Canadian border states, and they're looking at potential for some hazardous driving conditions there throughout the evening. What happens in the forecast is we take a look at daytime high temperatures, some 30s wrapped around the Great Lakes, New York, a mostly sunny day, and 49. It looks like a slim chance of showers for Atlanta, but just about 55. Los Angeles, 79. And Salt Lake, 38, but you've got some dense fog, which will materialize in the early morning hours. What happens in the forecast? Well, for Thursday, it looks like the Pacific Northwest will still be bombarded, and a lot of rivers are beginning to fill up across western Washington and Oregon. And this is going to be kicking out by early Thursday morning, so Florida, you begin to clear out a little bit. Moving across the Atlantic to the European continent. Once again, it's been fairly quiet. However, fog has inundated some places like Rotterdam, also like Trondheim, and we're looking at some scattered or isolated patches of fog right around Edinburgh. Some forecasts coming up in Paris. The expected daytime high temperature should be about 4 degrees Celsius, or 39 degrees on the Fahrenheit scale. Geneva is expecting some cloudy skies, and Madrid is also looking at partly cloudy sky conditions as well. This is where the activity is taking place across the Pacific. Some scattered showers across the Japanese islands. Also some scattered thunderstorms have been reported near Darwin. Now these forecasts coming up for these cities. CNN's World News continues now with David French in Washington.
And Karen, still to come on World News. Problems of the world, from snoring to runs in pantyhose, are no problem to one industrious inventor, and we're going to meet him in just a minute.
Hello, I'm Jane McCauley. Here are some stories making headlines around the world. Somalia's warring factions may be invited to the United Nations. According to an emissary to the Secretary General, Boutros Ghali is considering extending an invitation to representatives from both sides of the conflict in hopes of improving prospects for ceasefire talks. Supporters of Mohammed Aidid and forces loyal to interim President Ali Mahdi have been fighting since mid-November. The civil war in Somalia has already claimed 20,000 lives. A fire at a nuclear plant in Bulgaria apparently was caused by faulty cables. The blaze broke out at the Kozlodui nuclear power station Wednesday, but firefighters arrived on the scene in time to prevent any radioactive leakage. The International Atomic Energy Commission had recommended closing down 4 of the plant's oldest reactors early last year. 2 were shut down, the other 2 were repaired and are still running. Stay tuned for more news updates from around the world. I'm Jane McCauley. You're watching CNN International.
Good talk, great guests, and your phone calls. That's Larry King Live. Are you put a jacket on? No. It's a show where you'll meet interesting people.
I was watching on daytime, Larry.
A show that's both informative and entertaining. Are you in awe of me? Yes. Okay, rest. I feel so good now. And always full of surprises. So join me for Larry King Live every weeknight on CNN International.
Meet one of the newest members of Mensa, the Club of Geniuses. Her name is Catherine Barnes, and at the age of 3, she is a genius. Her IQ clocks in at 170, and that puts her intelligence potential in the top 2%. Catherine loves chess, computers, and dancing. When she grows up, she wants to be a doctor, a ballerina, or a mermaid.
From reviving the U.S. economy to curing snoring, Robert Ross has an answer for everything. The millionaire entrepreneur has been busy crafting inventions and making a buck since the 1930s. CNN's Richard Ross catches up with him in New York.
Don't tell Robert Ross what the State of the Union is. The multimillionaire knows people are rather gloomy. But this 73-year-old entrepreneur thinks the United States can do something about its economic future.
But we have the gray matter between our ears. We have the ability for the CEOs and labor to get together, to be able to design a product, equipment, that will not only meet the appeal of the United States public, but that of the rest of the world.
Before you turn a deaf ear, remember Ross made $100 a week selling papers during the Depression. He is now a multi-millionaire. Talk about the art of the deal. Ross sells everything from sneakers to non-run pantyhose around the world.
I enjoy climbing mountains, and that's what I like, the ability to be able to accomplish something. That's the success. That's what keeps me going.
Ross has been called a modern-day Marco Polo. Before the turmoil, Ross made barter deals with Soviet governments that used to be as good as gold.
The opportunities are tremendous out there. And you got to understand what you're dealing with and who you're dealing with. You just can't be naive to think that you're going to get on a plane and go over there and start writing business.
Ross feels the U.S. or any country deserves an equal right to sell a product abroad, but there's a way to go about it.
I'm embarrassed that our president went to Japan with hat in hand and acted as a president of a banana republic seeking business when really his Secretary of Commerce should have done that job.
But Ross likes to do things himself. He set up a medical college in the Caribbean because a friend's son was shut out in the United States. Helen Tazio is now a veterinarian in Queens thanks to the Ross Veterinary School.
Here I am. I'm practicing. I can do anything that any other veterinarian can who has been to a school in the United States.
And perhaps when the Robert Ross story is told one day, the most noteworthy project will be his anti-smoking liquor and his anti-snoring drops. He is a man still on the move.
There's not much sleeping when you're married to Dr. Ross. Not much sleeping. Lots of doing, going, running.
A lot of snoring?
No snoring. No snoring. That's for sure.
And finally, for those who want to become millionaires,
You've got to work hard. There's no Santa Claus upstairs. There's no Messiah that's going to say, here it is. You've got to work for it.
now you didn't expect a different piece of advice, did you? Richard Roth, CNN, New York.
That ends this edition of World News. In Washington, I'm David French. Good night, Susan.
Good night, David. See you tomorrow. I'm Susan Rook, CNN's veteran Atlanta. Sports Tonight is up next. No snoring on your show, boy, that's for sure.
Well, I thought maybe the Atlanta Hawks would go to sleep for the rest of the season. They are missing a legend. We'll tell you how they're going to try to replace Dominique Wilkins, plus a heated basketball rivalry in college ball. Michigan State and Michigan go to overtime. Also, an Olympic profile, the Games of '92 and the Winter Olympics coming in less than 2 weeks. Join Fred Hickman and me for that and more next.
This is CNN International. It's Showbiz Today with Ella Shaw in Hollywood and Lauren Sidney in New York. A producer for The New Kids on the Block says the kids sang only 20% of their own music. Also, Ken Burns, the creative force behind the PBS series The Civil War, unveils Empire of the Air, Radio Day. And Lou Gossett Jr. is the keeper of the city. Those stories and more on Showbiz Today.
Hello from New York and welcome to Showbiz Today. I'm Lauren Sidney. Bella Shaw has a day off. Willie Dixon, a master of the blues whose songs have influenced generations of musicians, died this morning in a Burbank, California hospital. He was 76. His music formed the roots of rock and roll, but his passion is reflected in the title of his autobiography, I Am the Blues. Jim Watkins takes a look back at Dixon's life and his career.
The blues are the true facts of life, expressed in words, songs, inspiration, feeling, and understanding.
Willie Dixon said the blues began with man's first heartbeat and that the essential truth of the music held a message for everyone.
I think you have to take what you got, take what you have, and make what you want until you can get what you need. That's the wisdom of the blues.
Born in Mississippi, Dixon rose to prominence in Chicago as a singer, songwriter, and arranger who helped shape the modern blues sound.
I don't know the words. I don't have the words to say how important he is.
But Dixon's songs like Hoochie Coochie Man and Bring It On Home were also a vital link to the fledgling rock and roll movement of the 1950s. Over the years, Dixon's songs were cut by the likes of Elvis, Jimi Hendrix, The Doors, and Led Zeppelin. In an interview he gave last year, he said that never surprised him.
When you have a good foundation, you don't worry about the building because it's a good foundation that has something great to stand on. The blues has been a foundation for all of American music ever since the beginning.
Those who built on Dixon's foundation mourned his death.
Oh, you know, it's a great loss. I mean, he's the greatest blues composer that ever lived in my time. And, you know, I was honored to have known him, and it's really a shock.
Dixon always made it his business to help along young blues musicians. 10 years ago, he formed the Blues Heaven Foundation to help blues artists avoid the exploitation he once faced in his career when he would sell his songs for $30. Dixon, a diabetic, had been in failing health for much of the past year, and though the rhythm of his heartbeat has stopped now, his music will continue teaching listeners the facts of life.
And remember, listen to the wisdom of the blues. Thank you. Thank you.
Jim Watkins for CNN Entertainment News, Hollywood.
A new scandal scandal is hitting the New Kids on the Block. The producer of their album, Hangin' Tough, who no longer works at the group, claims that the New Kids are not the only singers on the album. Producer Greg McPherson, a professor in the University of Massachusetts Music Department, is suing the New Kids for $21 million, saying that that's how much he's owed for royalties and creative contributions. The producer told the New York Post that the young heartthrobs do not actually sing lead vocals. He said that lead vocals were actually sung by New Kids manager Maurice Starr and Starr's brother, Michael Johnson. He also claims that the New Kids are only lip-syncing in concert. Starr denies both allegations.
Hanging Tough. New Kids sung all that lead. New Kids, myself, and my brother Michael sung the backgrounds together, collectively. And I was telling someone earlier that probably less than 10% of all the stars out there sang all their background. In the beginning, almost everything they sung along with the tape. Their voice was on the tape, the background was on the tape, everything was there. When they were young and in the beginning, because, you know, they needed that to hear, like if they were going off key, at least their voice was there to help them in the beginning. Today, that don't happen.
McPherson turned down interview requests today, saying that he needed to meet first with his lawyer. Some of the liveliest programming on television last year had virtually no action in it. Ken Burns' critically acclaimed documentary, The Civil War. Burns has returned to PBS with another fascinating and unexpected glimpse into the past called Empire of the Air. It's the startling story of the birth of radio. Dennis Michael has a profile.
He had made the first radio tube, the foundation of all radios, that would make reception of the human voice practical. DeForest was sure his Audion was a great achievement, even if he did not quite understand how it worked.
If the history books have an explanation at all, they usually credit Lee DeForest with the invention of radio, but that is only the barest outline of the real story. The real story, Empire of the Air, was presented to Ken Burns in the middle of his success with the Civil War and the beginning of work on his next magnum opus, A History of Baseball.
I certainly didn't have time with the Civil War going on and baseball about to start up to do that. But as I heard more of the dark, intriguing, tragic story behind what is usually a fairly sugar-coated, nostalgic look at the golden age of radio, I was hooked. I mean, focuses on three men, and one of them, Edwin Howard Armstrong, I think it should be as well known as Thomas Edison. And the reason why he isn't is a hell of a story.
The three men, DeForest, Armstrong, and David Sarnoff, created an empire that leads right up to the current structure of the broadcasting industry, which means Empire of the Air is very much about today.
History is always about the present. We think that it's about the past, and it is superficially about things that happened before us, but really our interest in it defines us right now, and how we compose our history tells us a lot about who we are now as well as how we were back then. And this story is more incredible than any of the radio dramas that the Golden Age supposedly put out. Dark and full of overweening ambition, which becomes poison in each one of these three men, ultimately corrupting them. It's great biography filled with heroes and villains and fools. And it's just classic Greek tragedy, this whole thing, how it unfolds.
In his own work, Ken Burns wants to go further back in time, blazing a trail backwards beyond the perceived limits of the historical documentary.
For a while, the conventional wisdom said you didn't go back beyond the existence of newsreels, and I think the Civil War showed us how rich you could penetrate the surface of a still photograph. I think the next frontier is to try to take our cameras back pre-photographic.
Burns' future is filled with the past. He's currently working on baseball, he's planning a documentary on Thomas Jefferson, and he'll be the executive producer of a major work on the American West as it truly was. Burns' motto, the future is behind us.
Our lack of history is the single greatest threat to this country. If you don't know where you've been, how can you possibly know where you're going?
Dennis Michael, CNN Entertainment News, Hollywood.
Still to come on Showbiz Today, 30-something's Polly Draper is crazy on the Broadway stage.
Hello, here are a few of the latest breaking stories from around the world. I'm Jane McCauley. The AIDS virus has caused many of us to think differently about sexual promiscuity. Thus, it is not surprising that the Thai cabinet struck a nerve when on Wednesday it approved a draft law that would allow women older than 18 to engage in prostitution as long as they underwent regular health checks and carried health cards to prove it. Opposition groups critiqued that such a bill would give the green light to legalized prostitution. The cabinet press release said the new law would give prostitutes the chance of rehabilitation rather than face penalties. The cabinet did, however, call for heavier penalties for pimps and brothel owners. The European community on Wednesday approved of a plan by the Association of Southeast Asian Nations to create a free trade area by the year 2008. A spokesman quoting the EC Commissioner for Asia said another positive move was made when the sixth nation ASEAN also agreed to improve political relations with the EC and other Asian countries. The countries represented in the association are Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand. Thanks for watching CNN International. Please stay tuned for more on the latest news.
Is it becoming harder and harder to get the news you need?
Good morning, USA.
Good morning. So glad you could join us.
Your morning news show gives you everything but the news.
Big events happening overseas. But first,
is your pet psychic? We'll find out. Gentlemen, in preparing after...
You're having a hard time making it home for the evening news. you're staying up too late to watch the late news. So, if your morning news is hard to watch, your evening news is hard to catch, and your late news is just too late.
Any questions?
Turn to headline news throughout the day on CNN International.
The TV movie Keeper of the City has given its star Louis Gossett Jr. yet another chance to play a role where the description of the character in the script does not exactly describe the actor, at least not on the surface. He can also be seen in the miniseries Roots, which is being rerun on cable. Melanie Blank has more.
Louis Gossett Jr. has won both an Emmy for his role in Roots and an Oscar for his work in An Officer and a Gentleman, so offers for roles steadily coming for the veteran actor, even some he might not expect. Gossett's now starring in Keeper of the City as James Della, a detective on the trail of a serial killer, a part that was supposed to be an Italian cop.
It was very funny. They sent me the script, and I said, well, the part's too small. It's the part of Della's partner. That's the only black part, in it. They said, no, we want you to play Della. I said, oh, well, so that's concurrent with my idea, but my Officer and Gentleman idea. I was the only black actor that went up for the Officer and Gentleman part, and I got it. I don't think you got it.
What? Got what? Courage. Heart. I can fix the day, man.
Della's no ordinary cop, and the man he's after is no ordinary serial killer, a vigilante that targets Chicago's mob bosses. So there's a lot of people that don't want Della to do his job.
He's a very conscientious kind of policeman, and he really thinks that he's the keeper of the city. And these two men are on the edge, and they are on a collision course.
Della gets his man, but Gossett doesn't always get the part he wants, like a serial killer.
I'd love to do a consummate three-dimensional villain. I would have died to play Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs. Came very close. Tony was absolutely wonderful in that film. And the only reason why they decided that I couldn't do it is because I was a black man and they didn't want me to play a cannibal. It would be off.
Gossett's dreams of playing the bad guy will have to wait. In his next movie, The Digstown Ringers, the actor won't be stalking anyone, he'll just be roughing them up as a boxer. Melanie Blank, CNN Entertainment News, Hollywood.
Former 30-something star Polly Draper is getting married again. And Barry Miller, star of the now-defunct show Equal Justice, is back practicing law. And the two performers are doing these things together on Broadway. In Crazy He Calls Me, Cynthia Tornquist has this story.
I play something on the piano, but he's downstairs. You play the piano? You prefer another instrument? The play Crazy He Calls Me is a comedy set in the 1930s about two very different people who meet and fall in love. But the honeymoon is over when the young aspiring attorney, played by Barry Miller, discovers there's something weird about his new bride.
My character is, well, she's a little bit nuts. She's a Russian immigrant. She meets a man in New York, Barry's client, and they have this great, passionate, unusual love affair.
It's all loose.
I think it's also about two characters coming together, finding what that word means to themselves, and taking that journey. What does that mean to say I love you to somebody? Really, what does that mean? I think the play very much is about people asking themselves that very question.
The production marks Barry Miller's return to Broadway. He last appeared in Neil Simon's Biloxi Blues in a role that earned him a Tony Award.
7 years has gone by between the time I did that show and this, and I guess that's the way things were supposed to work out. And I'm just glad to be back here.
Draper worked extensively on the stage in productions such as Michael Weller's Split and John Cassavetes' Thornhill before television took her to Hollywood.
I acted on stage before I did 30-something more than I did anything else. I do love being on stage. I love acting on stage because there's a lot of, you have a lot of more power than you do in other mediums.
The other medium Draper and Miller are referring to is television. While both are seasoned stage performers, the public knows them better for their work on the series 30-something and Equal Justice.
You know, Del Vecchio is attempted murder.
30-something. Could it have become 40-something? Oh, that would have been depressing for all of us, I think.
For the moment, Polly Draper and Barry Miller are concerned with the future of Crazy He Calls Me. The critics generally panned the production, although the show's stars received some favorable notices. Cynthia Tornquist, CNN Entertainment News, New York.
Still to come on Showbiz Today, Scottish comedian Billy Connolly.
After 1,763 days, a wary of U.S. motives in holding a peace conference in which people...
I've never seen anything like this. The government here's declared martial law.
You can perhaps hear this sound of bombs in the background. Put our microphone out the window. I think you'll be able to hear the sound.
London designer Helen Story's wild.
It's brilliant. I waited all the time watching the CNN.
The best reporting that I've seen on what transpired back there.
World economics, a complex, ever-changing machine. What happens within its delicate framework affects every minute of your life. Whether your concerns are local or international, you need information to manage them. Every day, CNN gives you a look at the economics machine, tracking its movements with live updates from Wall Street, and programs that guide you through its complexities. Business news to keep you in time with change on CNN International.
Only one network is seen, believed, and quoted in more than 100 countries around the world. Captain Jacques Cousteau and his son Jean-Michel Cousteau, who brought the undersea world to millions of TV viewers, were honored Tuesday night by the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. They received the certificates of honor, citing them for significant contributions to the medium of television and to the world of scientific exploration. In explaining the success of his programs, Captain Cousteau said they should not be called documentaries, but adventure films.
They're telling you how we solve a problem. They're filming the adventure of our people when they want to obtain an understanding in a difficult problem. It's not a documentary. It's entirely different.
Comedian Billy Connolly was introduced to U.S. television audiences when he succeeded Howard Hesseman as head of the class. Well, now he has graduated to a new series based on the head of the class character. Lauren Terry has more.
4, 3, 2... What's a guy from Glasgow doing in Berkeley? Trying to hold on to his green card, for one thing.
I really don't know why we fight so much, but there's so much in common.
Scottish comedian Billy Connolly stars as Billy McGregor. He was the history professor in a brief stint on Head of the Class. Now he's a poetry professor in Berkeley. He marries divorcee Mary Springer, played by Marie Marshall.
Hi, there's plenty of orange juice in the garage.
But they didn't exactly marry for love. They married for a basement apartment for Billy, rent money for Marie, and the all-important green card to keep Billy around to pay that rent.
I sleep downstairs, and I'm quite a happy guy. A slightly frustrated, happy man, and she's a happy, together, hard-working mother of three whose husband has gone to Australia. Maybe he slept in the basement too.
I see. Johnny Galecki plays David, the 13-year-old son who's trying out his boundaries.
David's kind of a con man, adolescent con man. He's not as much a liar, just covering his track, I guess. Not too good at that, especially with Billy. Just kind of caught on to him.
With a plot line that keeps the woman upstairs and the man downstairs, the inevitable question arises, how long before they're on the same level?
It's starting to get shaky already. You know, they thought I was... they keep talking about Tony Danza, who hasn't slept with a woman for 6 years. So, not in his real life, of course.
Connolly's not letting on just where the show will take Billy and Marie. And like the show's characters, the real-life Billy is just taking his newfound good fortune day by day.
Before I did Head of the Class, I had never been in television. I'd only been in talk shows, because I'm a comedian. And to do that, to come into another one now, where I am the sort of lead guy, is extraordinary luck.
Extraordinary luck indeed. Now the guy from Glasgow finds himself in the thick of an only-in-America experience.
I remember years and years ago, what was the Round Martin's Laughing from beautiful downtown Burbank, and I always wondered what I looked like. And now I roll down the hill in my hot rod every day playing the Beach Boys, and here I am at beautiful downtown Burbank.
Only in America, indeed. Lauren Terry for CNN Entertainment News, Hollywood.
The American shows are running in Australia and New Zealand now, and I think I'm going to be going over there to find the biggest stud of New Zealand. We're going to pit him against the biggest stud of Australia and fly him back to the United States and do the show.
I'm Karen McGinnis reporting for CNN International. Weather conditions around the world begin in Europe. Low pressure to the north of Iceland is producing showers and windy weather conditions. Showers and a mixture of rain and snow are also found over northern Scandinavia in response to the same weather system. High pressure is the dominant weather feature over England, along with a good deal of fog. A weak weather disturbance near Faro, Portugal is generating showers, even a few thunderstorms. Low pressure in central Russia is producing snow from Moscow southward to the Black Sea. Another developing storm in the eastern Mediterranean Sea is producing showers and snow around Aleppo, Syria. Moving to eastern Asia, a weather disturbance near Islamabad, Pakistan, has dropped 45 millimeters of rain, or nearly 2 inches of rainfall. Snow is falling further to the north near Urumqi, China, and a storm system in Southeast Asia and one just east of Japan are combining to spread rain from Wuhan, China, east to Tokyo, Japan. A little further north, snow is falling over northern Korea. Elsewhere, scattered showers and thunderstorms are falling across the Indian Ocean, Indonesia, and Australia. And an area of disturbed weather is to the southwest of Perth, as well as over the southern island of New Zealand. In the Central Pacific, tropical storm Ikeka continues to intensify as it moves towards the west at 11 knots. Winds are up to 55 knots, or 65 miles per hour at this point. This tropical storm should become a hurricane within 12 hours. Numerous showers and thunderstorms are located over central and eastern Brazil. Showers and thunderstorms also are located over the Andes Mountains from Peru south to Argentina. I'm Karen McGinnis reporting for CNN International.
One of last summer's most successful concert packages was the traveling Lollapalooza Festival, featuring 7 alternative bands such as Jane's Addiction and Susie and the Banshees. That tour and the sudden success of the band Nirvana are just 2 of the most visible signs of a trend threatening to burst on the scene, much the way punk music did in the late 70s. Mark Shearer reports.
If the Lollapalooza Festival was any indication, something's got a hold on America's young people. Something that sounds like punk and smells like teen spirit. Topping the album charts this week is Nirvana, 3 young men from Seattle, where the bands are loud and the music industry's listening.
Well, Seattle, you have bands like Nirvana and Mudhoney and Pearl Jam who are making a harder, noise-oriented rock, which has come to be known as grunge.
Rolling Stone magazine's Chris Mundy has been following the grunge rock phenomenon.
Grunge rock is just essentially anything with very heavy, very distorted guitars. I mean, that's kind of it. Most of the grunge rock bands are fairly simplistic pop bands that just have layers and layers of feedback and white noise.
While grunge rock may be the current trend on the U.S. college radio circuit, across the Atlantic there's a musically diverse alternative scene, hosting such frenetic new groups as the Manic Street Preachers, Teenage Fan Club, and Ned's Atomic Dustbin.
There's energy involved in like it. Energy is punk, all right. But I think, it's just energy. I think we just let our hair down.
Besides the violent crashing of guitars, perhaps the biggest similarity between today's alternative artists and the punk rockers of almost 15 years ago is attitude.
There's a punk ethic. It's an attitude more than anything, and it comes across in the sound.
The punk movement of the late 70s was punctuated by the safety pin sneer and onstage fury of groups like The Clash, The Damned, The Stranglers, and the Sex Pistols in England, and by the Ramones in America.
Punk rock, began with the Ramones, There wasn't any music like it until there was us. We were disgusted with what rock had become not rock and roll anymore.
Along with the Ramones, the New York music scene at that time included bands such as Television, Blondie, and Talking Heads. And like today's alternative bands, these groups were offering a new direction during a time of economic recession and musical stagnation. The place they played was called CBGB's. This is a club that by all rights should be designated a music history landmark someday. It was the epicenter of it all in the late 70s. But if you think the spirit of punk belongs in a museum, well then you should stop in here some night.
Punk isn't dead. Punk is alive in different forms. As I say, it has evolved.
Whatever you want to call it, punk, alternative, or grunge, it's really just the sound of rock and roll reinventing itself, and the future trying to force itself on stage. Mark Shearer, CNN Entertainment News, New York.
And that is it for this edition of Showbiz. Tomorrow, we'll have a report on an international film festival for short films. In New York, I'm Lauren Sidney, and for Bella and everyone here at Showbiz today, we appreciate that you joined us this evening, and we hope to see you tomorrow.
Love to you. Love to you, baby. Love to you. I don't want you to cook my bread. I don't need you to make my bed.
CNN International. CNN headline news. I'm David Goodnow. Members of Congress received their copies of President Bush's $1.5 trillion spending plan today. The proposal contains a variety of tax breaks and defense cuts designed to pump life back into the weak economy. In a message prefacing the 2,000-page budget, Mr. Bush called on lawmakers to lay aside partisanship and enact a growth package. Today, the president said it's up to the Democratic-controlled Congress to meet his March 20th deadline.
Do you think bipartisan support in the election year, Mr. President, for this?
We're going to find out. We certainly appeal for that. We want to have it. Call for to lay aside politics for a period of time. I do think it's important, and we'll appeal members here, as I have to the Democratic leaders, to move on that deadline date, because we cannot let it drift.
That 5-pound budget book includes a post-Cold War defense spending plan. It envisions saving $10 billion next fiscal year, and $50 billion over 5 years. But some Democrats are calling for much deeper cuts, up to $100 billion. President Bush is calling for an increase in funding for the Strategic Defense Initiative, but he's proposing only minor troop reductions. The axe would fall on several weapon systems. Canceling the Navy's Sea Wolf submarine will save more than $17 billion, but virtually guarantee the elimination of at least 10,000 jobs. Defense Secretary Dick Cheney said the president views the cuts as the biggest the nation can afford without damaging its security. Another primary element of the budget is its package of tax cuts and incentives aimed at improving the economy. They include a maximum $5,000 tax credit for first-time home buyers. Such individuals also would be entitled to penalty-free withdrawals from individual retirement accounts. The maximum tax on capital gains would be cut from 28% to 15%, and unemployment benefits would be extended once again. More details of the president's health care reform plan have been made public now. Democrats charge the plan like substance. Jeff Levine has more on how the proposals may affect Americans.
Diabetic Morgan Gale watched the president's State of the Union address, and he's concerned Mr. Bush's health care proposal is not the answer. Gale's stuck with a costly health insurance policy that he fears may ultimately be canceled.
If I were to be removed from the health care plan that I have now, I don't know that I could get health care anywhere else. So I have no options.
Up to 37 million Americans lack health insurance, and the president promises to make health care accessible to the poor by offering a tax credit of up to $3,750 for each low-income family. At a budget briefing, the president's men said details of the proposal would come next month, but they offered little in the way of clarification. The tax credit is also being described as a kind of voucher.
That those individuals who qualify will have that value of a voucher that can be used and can only be used for the purchase of health insurance. It obviously would be phased in with the poorest individuals initially, but then being expanded over the 5-year period.
It's not clear how much the approach would cost or how the tab would be paid, but the proposed budget suggests a cap on the $84.5 billion Medicaid program for the poor as one cost containment strategy. The administration is also resurrecting a plan to make well-to-do Medicare recipients pay another $60 a month for their coverage. But officials say that's not related to insurance reform. Democrats charge the tax credit proposal won't pay for the necessary coverage.
The average family with a good program pays almost $5,000 a year. The credit lasts like $700.
The administration describes the Democrats' employer-based health plan as a false panacea, leading to higher taxes and fewer jobs.
This is similar to the kind of rhetoric we heard when we were trying to adopt Medicare. Same words, same rhetoric, same scare tactics.
And those proposing a sweeping government-controlled health system expressed their dissatisfaction with the president.
He's proposing a Band-Aid approach when major surgery of this system has to be in place.
The pressure to do something about the nation's health care dilemma is growing, but a comprehensive rescue seems unlikely amidst election year bickering. Jeff Levine, CNN, Washington.
12 Cuban family members are in custody after they were captured while trying to flee to a U.S. naval base. One of them tripped and set off an alarm in the security zone separating Cuban territory and the Marines' Guantanamo Bay outpost. Cuban security guards opened fire and shot a young boy and girl. One man escaped by picking through cactus and rocks. He's being treated at the U.S. base. United Nations envoy Mary Goulding said he'll hold off sending peacekeeping troops to Yugoslavia. Today, Goulding said more work needs to be done in the war-torn country before the 10,000 troops can be deployed. The Undersecretary General agreed that the ceasefire is holding, but expressed doubts about how the Croatians and Serbians would cooperate with the peacekeepers. Secretary of State James Baker was in Moscow to help wrap up the Mideast Peace Conference. The two-day multinational talks ended with participants agreeing to meet again in the spring. Japan, Turkey, Austria, Canada, and the United States are potential hosts for the next series of meetings. Israeli Foreign Minister David Levy said the Moscow talks fulfilled his expectations despite his country's conflicts with the Palestinians. And Russian President Boris Yeltsin today announced a plan for sweeping military cuts and a change in strategy for dealing with the United States. He leaves tomorrow for a brief stop in London, then heads to New York for a UN Security Council meeting. Eileen O'Connor reports.
Boris Yeltsin addressed the nation from the usual desk in the Kremlin, leaving the country in no doubt as to who is in charge, setting forth drastic arms cuts. Our principal position is as follows, Yeltsin said. Nuclear weapons and other means of mass destruction must be eliminated. The Russian president laid out the specifics, taking off alert 600 strategic land and sea-based missiles, curbing production of long-range nuclear bombers, and proposing an eventual elimination of all sea-launched intercontinental missile systems. All that, Yeltsin stressed, will reduce arms spending and free up money for each and every Russian suffering under economic reforms. It could also increase aid packages. On the eve of his trip to the United Nations and the United States, Yeltsin was assuring Secretary of State James Baker that in the future nuclear weapons will not be pointed at the U.S. and proposing cooperation in a joint anti-ballistic missile system. U.S. politicians say that will make handouts to the Russians more palatable for recession-hit voters at home. Yeltsin also is giving assurances the military and the Commonwealth are behind these proposals, meeting on Tuesday with military chiefs on the Black Sea. Despite a rift over how the fleet should be divided, Yeltsin was showing a united front on strategic military policy. United, too, is the public, still waiting in long lines for basic goods that now cost 5 to 10 times more. Most say it's about time Russia started trading guns for butter.
I think it's our duty to disarm.
It's the right thing to do. some say with not a little desperation, every bit helps. Boris Yeltsin and the new Commonwealth have little choice but to disarm. They cannot afford to keep up these weapon systems. Yeltsin is even having to ask for financial help in dismantling others. Officials here say there is no point in bankrupting the country in order to defend it. Eileen O'Connor, CNN, Moscow.
Astronauts on board Shuttle Discovery are wrapping up their experiments. They're expected to land at California's Edwards Air Force Base in about 12 hours. The crew has been monitoring crystal growth and mold cultures and performing more medical tests. They've been working 12-hour shifts, and the trip was extended an extra day. A few astronauts took time off today to simply enjoy the scenery. The woman who said she had a 12-year affair with Democratic presidential contender Bill Clinton is out of a job. Jennifer Flowers was an administrative assistant at an Arkansas state agency. Her boss said she effectively quit by not showing up for 3 days and not calling to explain. Flowers was making media appearances in New York, backing up her story in the Star magazine. 14 jurors will begin hearing Jeffrey Dahmer's sanity trial tomorrow. The panel was chosen today and will decide if the confessed killer was sane when he committed 15 murders. The defense attorney is expected to introduce graphic evidence of mutilation and sexual assault. If Dahmer is found insane, he's likely to spend the rest of his days in a mental institution. The jury is set. The spectators are already paying scalper prices for ringside seats. And tomorrow, opening arguments are scheduled in the rape trial of heavyweight boxer Mike Tyson. Here's more from Jeff Flock.
Like Mike Tyson's prize fights, his rape trial, too, is turning into pay-per-view.
I sold my ticket to the trial this morning.
Greg Odell got in line at 2 a.m. to get one of the courtroom passes being handed out to the public. Then he sold it for $100.
You think it's a good deal?
Yes. Only problem, by the time the buyer got into the courtroom, the jury had already been picked, and Mike Tyson was long gone.
I may have to buy another one tomorrow.
Maybe not. Judge Patricia Gifford got word of the ticket scalping and ruled it out of order.
Any violation of the foregoing may result in punishment as criminal contempt of court.
As for the jury, it is mostly young, mostly male, mostly white. 9 white, 3 black, 8 men, 4 women. Average age, 35 years old.
If you're a prosecutor, you want them to be able to have the guts to convict.
And attorney observer Mark Shaw says he sees that.
Frankly, it's just a gut hunch, Jeff, but I felt like the prosecution might have gotten a little bit better of it.
Get out of my way! Reporters got the better of Tyson as he tried to dodge their glare for his morning road work.
I'm telling you right now, quit it.
Tyson was considerably cheerier when he arrived at the courthouse. That's Camille Ewald at his side. She helped raise Tyson as a boy and sat in on the morning court session to provide moral support. Tyson then helped his defense team make their final jury challenges and then went home early.
Mike Tyson now heads home, having participated in selecting the jury that will hear his case. As they say in boxing, the preliminaries are now over, and the main event is about to begin. I'm Jeff Flock, CNN, in Indianapolis.
This next story can prove that the dog is indeed man's best friend. Doctors credit the dog of an 11-year-old